Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Parks and Recreation retreat for February 13th, 2026. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call.
Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Tackleron.
Here.
Here, Freeman.
Here.
Vice Chair Way.
There.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yep.
Council meeting, the cutting is also with us today.
All right, thank you. Now's the time for members of the public may speak to any item not on the agenda. If you are calling in to Zoom, please raise your hand and the clerk will add you to the list. If you're here in public, in person, please acquire a card from the clerk. How many speakers do you have?
We currently have three members of the public wishing to speak. One is a group. The first member of the public is Doug Peterson. You will have 3 minutes if you can come up and approach the owl camera so you can hear it.
Morning. My name is Doug Peterson, and I am here to advocate for the repair of the broken sluice gate that is housed on Valley Water's tide gate structure. Sluice gate was added to the structure in 1978 as an environmental mitigation for the displacement of native wetlands by the landfill operation. Over the past 20 months, Palo Alto officials have repeatedly stated that they are working to resolve the issue. On June 25th, 2024, the police responded to concerns voiced in writing by Emily Renzel and Eileen McLaughlin by saying that the city believed that it was complying with the mitigation requirement. Emily Renzel sent in another letter, and on August 27th, 2024, Mr. Castillo reported to the commission that the city was reaching out to contractors and Valley Water to see about the repair. Valley Water hosted public meetings about the retrofit project on December 7th, 2024 and August 25th, 2025. Meeting expressed strong concerns about the broken sluice gate, and city officials in attendance assured them that efforts were underway to get it working again. City officials are now saying that the sluice gate may be unnecessary because of significant inflows from the Emily Renzel wetlands that might provide equivalent water quality benefits. Everybody was aware of those inflows when the much larger tide gate replacement project was designed and built by Valley Water, and numerous regulatory agencies issued permits before that project was terminated in early 2023. That replacement project included a state-of-the-art sluice gate that everybody agreed would be beneficial to the flood basin's ecosystem, support the mosquito abatement effort. City staff and Valley Water presented these benefits to this commission, with nobody suggesting the new sluice gate feature might be unnecessary. Out by the trail near the tide gate, there is an informational sign that includes a passage about the sluice gate that reads as follows: a delicate balance. One manual tide gate is open and closed to adjust water levels in the flood basin. A balance must be kept to ensure there is flood protection and enough tidal water to support wildlife and habitat, but not too much water to cause mosquitoes to hatch. I am here on behalf of that wildfire. I urge this commission to include the sluice-gate in a future agenda and make a recommendation about its fate. Let me conclude by saying that I am a fair-minded person who has studied this issue extensively, and I firmly believe that Palo Alto is entitled to robust financial support from appropriate regional sources to fund the necessary repair, and that the mitigation agreed to a half-century ago does not negate this entitlement. The landfill is now a wonderful park. And Palo Alto has preserved its shoreline admirably for many decades to the benefit of all. Thank you.
Up next, we have Ruth C.
My name is Ruth Chai, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. 4 years ago, I moved from Texas to Los Angeles. As I retired as a business unit CFO with AT&T. I discovered pickleball from a neighbor's house and initially played at courts in Mountain View and Los Angeles. 2.5 years ago, I visited Mitchell Park and have been playing here ever since. I have made lasting friendships, including a group of 13 women, and we meet monthly outside the courts for socializing and support. 2 years ago, I was recruited by a Mitchell Park player right there to join the board of Stevenson House, the nonprofit affordable senior housing complex just behind the courts. I currently serve as their treasurer. I would not be serving on the Stevenson House board if it were not for the pickleball community. The Palo Alto Pickleball Club runs weekly 90-minute session for Stevenson House residents. More than 50% of our residents are Mandarin speakers, and pickleball's Mandarin speaking club members are on hand to teach them how to learn how to play pickleball. I have watched 90-year-old Miss Jean Jagme refuse to quit when our session ended, requesting another practice 2 days later. The determination and joy on everyone's faces speak volumes. These residents take pride in living independently, trying new physical activities while staying close to their children and grandchildren. I also volunteer 5 hours a week at Elizabeth Gamble Garden and 8 hours a month for Stanford Live and Theater Works. I was invited to join Gamble Garden Board last year, and I'm getting ready to succeed the current treasurer later when she retires later this year. So even though I'm not a Palo Alto resident, the connections I've made through Mitchell Park Pickleball have been my gateway to giving back to this community in a very meaningful way. I'm sharing my story to tell you that community pickleball at Mitchell Park is truly life-changing, not just for me, but also for many people I see around me.
Thank you. I'm inspired.
And I thank you, and I hope we'll find a solution for the space constraints that I see every day. Thank you so much.
Up next, we have David S. speaking on behalf of a group of 10, so he'll be allotted an additional 3 minutes.
Good morning. It's nice to see many of you again. I'm David Siegel. I'm a 35-year Palo Alto resident and president of the Palo Alto Pickleball Club. The club is a community service organization with over 1,300 members, well over 50% being Palo Alto residents. We bring the joy of play to people of all ages and abilities, just like you heard. We're grateful to this commission and the staff led by Adam Howard for the partnership that has brought increased health, wellness, belonging, and new friendships to so many lives. The community-based pickleball at Mitchell is so much more than a sport. And I truly hope most of you have spent time at the courts to see the magic that has happened there. If you haven't, I strongly encourage you to do so and observe the experiences firsthand. Today, I want to update you on the progress since we last met in August. We listened carefully to your requests and we have acted. As you know, the challenge we face is a good one to have. Working together, we've been very successful helping so many people improve their mental and physical health. But we could be doing so much more, helping to improve the well-being of more people in our community, but we simply don't have the space to do it. I say this knowing the club has volunteers and the will, and if needed, we can help overcome any financial challenges. For example, like Ruth just talked about, the club would like to expand community programming, including clinics for seniors at Stevenson House, or hosting fundraising tournaments for our local charities. Currently, we cannot do this without compromising the existing open play that makes the community so very special. I believe here we're all on the same page that we need more capacity while being responsive and sensitive to other stakeholders and users at Mitchell Park. In March, you'll hear from the staff and the club about alternatives to get this done. But today I want to tell you what we've accomplished in response to your requests. Noise. We've studied abatement issues and noise levels in the park and nearby residences. The staff has collected data on the issue, which will be shared in March. We're sensitive to this issue and can mitigate it to a certain degree. Parking. Great news here. In addition to the 19 spots we already had from Ability Path, we've obtained 35 additional spots available nights and weekends, peak playing hours. This has already freed up more spaces at the park and the library. Adam will report on actual parking data when the agenda item comes up. Also, 50 new parking places directly adjacent to the parking fields just became available with the opening of Hoover School. Since these are available on weekend, they'll dramatically free up space at the main and library lots. With regard to Magical Bridge, we're addressing the nearby bathroom issue. The club has reached an agreement with the Unitarian Church to modify its fence so 1 to 2 portable bathrooms can be installed and serviced. This will mean kids at Magical Bridge won't have to venture as far to the bathrooms, and frankly, some of our seniors as well. It also makes the existing permanent bathrooms more available to everyone else at the park. Now, during our discussions with Magical Bridge, they mentioned that one of the city's gates leading to the pickleball courts opened the wrong way for passing wheelchairs. We reached out to the city and the gate was reversed. Problem solved. You also requested that we reach out to tennis. First, we resolved the PAUSD issue that came up just before the August meeting. There will be no changes to public court access. Since then, I've met with the Pali tennis coach and the president of the Palo Alto Tennis Club. Next month, I expect staff to report on tennis court usage, especially during peak hours. One important discovery. While initially reported that Coverly didn't have enough power to support lights, that information was inaccurate. We've worked with city electricians to confirm that there's more than enough power to light all 6 courts. We've also worked with a lighting company to get a specific proposal. There is a clear path to increase the number of lit courts without constructing any additional courts. Finally, regarding tennis court use, I strongly encourage you to review the Kim Grant contract before it renews in April or comes up again in April. It includes provision regarding open community play, and I quote from that agreement. Tenant shall use the premises to provide a public recreational tennis facility, including tennis instruction and/or scheduled public use. I'm not advocating any major specific change to the city's relationship with Kim Grant. What I am advocating is that you examine these city-owned courts. At minimum, there may be times where the courts are sitting idle and could be used for public open play. So in sum, we've responded to what you've requested and have been discussing options with Adam. I'm confident you'll hear more specifics in March. We look forward to continuing our cooperative relationship with him and this commission, knowing we share the same objectives. I really hope you see the tremendous asset that the Palo Alto Pickleball Club is to you and our city. Our volunteers put in thousands of hours to make Mitchell Park the special place it is. I'll close with this. There's been commentary recently about noise, parking, and other concerns. Some of it simply doesn't match the facts. I ask that you rely on the data and see for yourselves. Visit the park, talk to residents, speak with players, and judge based on firsthand experience. Our goal has always been simple, to make something good for Palo Alto even better. I thank you for your time.
The comments at this time.
Good. Thank you all for, who spoke this evening, and we appreciate your, taking time to share your perspective and experience with the commission. Comments are important, to our process and help inform us of our discussion. Decision making. Thank you very much for that. We'll now move on to the next item, which is the agenda changes, additions, and deletions. Are there any suggested changes or? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. So before we jump into the routine agenda and do this work of solving all of our parks and recreation issues, I guess I thought it'd be helpful to spend a few minutes grounding ourselves in our roles as commissioners. Not in a read the handbook and out type of way, but somewhere, but just a shared reminder of why we're here and how we're supposed to operate. This comes from the boards and commissions handbook. This proposal is all very official. But the short version is we advise, we guide, we listen, and we try not to accidentally run the community services department. Our role in plain English at the highest level. At the highest level, we're an advisory body to the community services department and the city council. That means that we provide perspective, we bring community input, we think long-term and strategically, and we ask good questions hopefully at the meetings and also at the ad hocs. And what we don't do is manage the day-to-day operations of the community services department. This is one of the primary reasons that we have the Parks and Rec Commission last on staff. And we'll get into that more in detail as the evening goes on, when it goes on. So if you're interested or you're passionate about a particular item, you'll have an opportunity during our session where we start talking about the layouts on roads and the ad hoc of looking at that item as a possible liaison between the Parks and Rec Commission and the Community Services Department. So our lane is policy, planning, and community connection. So we stay in the lane. We're incredibly helpful. When we drift out of it, our meetings get longer. We don't meet our objectives, and for our use of the public. So that's my quick state of the mission overview. Nothing groundbreaking, just a reminder of our role and how we work best together. So with that, let's start with the next item on the agenda. So
One more slide.
All right, I'll take it from there. All right, very good. Well, thank you, Chair, members of the commission. Very nice to be with you once again. Really actually want to pick up on the chair's comments. This topic follow discussion on partnering norms with the commission and staff follows your discussion initially in December, where we brought this topic forward. We had a good introductory conversation, and I know that there was some interest in bringing it back, so it's an opportunity to do that. I would frame the points that staff has advanced as really a conversation starter and perhaps really aligned with the chair's comments. As from staff perspective, as we iterate bringing this forward to all of our boards, commissions, and committees, we would consider this as really, again, a conversation starter that we could use periodically to do a check-in to ensure alignment between staff and our boards, commissions, and committees. We certainly welcome your feedback on what we've written. And also want to know that as it happens, just over the last couple of days, I've been up in Napa at the Cal Cities, the League of California Cities, City Managers Department meetings, once a year event that we get together. And actually spoke on a panel on this topic of working with commissions or advisory bodies, as it's been described among other agencies. And I'll tell you, what you're doing today is really best practice. One, to take an opportunity like this and hopefully get you off on the right foot by talking about norms and as Chair spoke to how you are identifying your role and work from there. But also working on work plans and how that helps define the work that you're doing as a body and how staff is supporting that work and ultimately leading to advisory advice to the city council. So really important to have those tools. And then also, as Chair referenced, the handbook. There are boards, commissions, and committees handbook. That's something that's been adopted by the city council and reflects again, really best practice, and quite frankly, from a statewide perspective, I think Palo Alto is probably on the most elaborate end of having a handbook and really trying to provide guidance that is useful both for commissioners, for staff, and members of the public. So once again, just really appreciate the opportunity to use this as a check-in, chance to open the discussion. As noted here, we had a number of pointers, again, that you had some discussion of in December. I know there's some comments, and perhaps we could either go over those again, or if you'd like, we could just kind of open it up for discussion. I wouldn't be surprised if, as was the case in December, that while the item before you is really focused on commission and staff, that some ways it can also lead into a discussion on how the commission itself operates best together. So certainly happy to support that there. So with that, Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
The questions from Commissioner. One question I do have, these are pretty much uniform across all commissions, correct?
That's our intent. At this point, we've only presented it to a few of the commissions, so we still got work ahead to roll it out completely. But the plan is to try to use it as a somewhat normalizing way to set expectations both with commissions and the variety of staff that you will.
I do know we had I was a part of a meeting that I think was held last year.
Yes.
A lot of the chairs and vice chairs from commissions. Is that I assume this is kind of an evolving process, and so will that be another? Will there probably be some new commission, the new chairs, elected new vice chairs to get more input as to how this can, I guess, go into something better.
Exactly. So this is in many ways an outgrowth of that discussion. Again, with the mayor, vice mayor, I participated as well with all the chairs and vice chairs to talk about what are the ongoing issues and areas for improvement. And so we took that and have put this together and would expect to bring this back to that group again this year.
Again, any questions, comments?
Questions, what do you expect?
Yeah, really, again, wanted to use this as much as anything else, a reminder. And again, if you have any concerns or issues that you'd like to discuss, to use this for that purpose.
So if I could, just a clarification on number 7, that only applies to individual staff, or like anything that the staff as a whole is working, we want to have public discussions here, right?
Right, exactly. So the distinction there, in fact, yeah, there's a more elaborate write-up in the report. It's really focused on performance, staff performance issues, and if there's feedback that really would involve management follow-up, then ideally that would start privately so that we would have staff and management would have the opportunity to address any performance concerns that are raised by commissioners before, obviously, at some point, if it needs to be handled publicly, then so be it. But I think the starting point would be to address those on a one-to-one basis.
So. Change or and make it with performance, because it's very different. If we're talking about stuff. Work products essentially, which is implied here but not intended. And then their performance, which is definitely not what we can become.
Yes, I appreciate that. That's good. I would just acknowledge that there can be a gray area between the work product and the quality of the work. So, I think obviously it's an issue that does require some judgment. And I think the point we're trying to make here is present company accepted. That's the commissions are actually a staff development opportunity, but it's a forum where staff really learns to interact in a more formal way with commissioners and in the public eye. And so as such, we try to provide a supportive environment there. And so we want to ensure that we're addressing the issues. So, if there are concerns with the work product, that we address that directly, while also mindful of how it will land on the people who generated the work. And, it obviously goes both ways and always in how if it were, say, criticism of the work is received. Absolutely want to get the message at the same time, mindful of the human dimension of that interaction.
We have the which includes, say, pretty clearly sort of redundancy of what we have in all the numbers. All the other ones are in the handbook, and people read the handbook, they should be essentially compliant with all of these without having to have them restated. I don't mind if they're restated, but they're not really, if I understood it, the idea was to make it clear. These are this is what the handbook has, and these are the things that hopefully commissioner. Number 7 is different, and if you're saying, oh, it's a gray area, that's exactly the problem. It's a new idea that gray or not, commissioner personally, are not to comment on performance, and I don't disagree, but the work permit is our job. The work, that's our job, and if the word work there, and oh yeah, it's a matter of interpretation, then that's not. So that's my opinion, and I don't think that should be there if you want to replace it with performance or an appearance or something that has to do more with behavior than what the work of staff and the commission.
The big question, bro.
I'm a fan of leaving it more broadly and keeping the word work. I think I'd rather err on the side of making sure that the behavior towards staff is respectful. And I'm just going to use an example, and because I can see Adam, like court counts. We're talking about court policy. It's not our job to say, well, you should have done the court counts on this day and this day and this day. If we want additional data, I think that's okay to ask for, but it's not our job to say that how the work should be done. With very qualified staff, and I think part of that staff development point that city manager was making is that we want to make sure that staff feels empowered to do the work and to make critical decisions and to present them to a body. We don't want to hinder their work or micromanage it in any sort of way. They are trained professionals at this subject matter, and we should be respectful of that and respectful of our work. So I think the wording in 7, I appreciate and would like to leave it as is.
Yeah, I'll just, having been part of this process, I kind of remember that we had a lot of discussion of that, during that session with the commissioners. And so it's, because part of that work that we do as I guess any commissioner is working with as a liaison with the or part of an ad hoc with staff is receiving and sharing, working on input, not directly. So so we're not looking at performance. I think we're looking at the work that we're doing and working with staff on that. So it might be something that we definitely want to revisit, I guess, when we reconvene, having commissioners together to give it the commissioner.
Just changing gears a little bit. As a new guy, I'd love to hear feedback from either city or even cross cities, council or chair. Like, what we're supposed to be doing, you said there's potential areas of improvements and you've seen best practices. Are there actionable things that we as a commission should be doing? Like, what's our top 3 takeaways that they do this better?
Well, that might be interesting, pick up in that for our staff. My earlier point was just even having this as a point of reference is a best practice in and of itself. And many cities actually don't have a supplement that really expands the focus from the commission itself to also including a staff as an audience for this is a way of ensuring that we're aligned. So I think that's one of the goals. And then if there anything specific with staff or commissioners want to suggest, have at it.
I would just add it, it's important to in working with the commissions on ad hocs, these interactions. It's important kind of restate our goals or kind of sort of being the side of these overarching norms, unless we make it a practice to restate them. I think it's in that way we can have the right lines and not lose sight of each of our roles as we work together.
That's good.
Thanks for reminding us. This reminds me of other advisory role I took for the directors of non-profit companies or advisors for non-profit companies. And I'm curious here in the city Interims Commission advisory role, which the definition, whether the process of say we break outside sources, say, there's other fundings in nonprofits or grants, should we, is there a standard process, we just refer somebody to the staff team or we just make a suggestion? And so this is the only area I'm not clear how do we provide that to enhance their work. But I also I'm cautious of their bandwidth, so I don't want to add more. You already got enough ground, so I need to add more. So it's like the balance I'm trying to learn how to be the best.
Yeah, I think what you're raising is as much perhaps a question of individual role versus the commission. To the extent that it involves the commission and your role as a commission, it really may best fit within the context of the work plan that you'll be talking about later, and how whether there are specific initiatives that the commission's interested in that staff may say we don't have the resources to pursue. And then that leads to a discussion of, well, do we then engage in a review of how might additional resources be brought to the table.
Go back to the issue. In the previous meeting, I expressed concern that people from different cultures may not know what to do and how to express themselves, and actually might cause people to express their contributions to the discussion because, oh, I'm not sure I can say this, or they might say something which in their own culture where they can it's okay, and here might be a little bit itchy or something. I still can. So that's one thing. I think this cannot be an ambiguous thing. It has to be very clear what you can do or not, because it's not in the hand. The other things are all in the handbook. They're not necessary, but it's okay to package them so that it's more accessible. But if you're bringing new things that are not in the handbook, then I think that needs to go to council. It can't just be, oh yeah, we will define work as we go according to however, I don't know exactly who interprets that work. That's not, in my opinion, not acceptable. I understand that, it may be different if you say, well, what time did we measure it? Or we shouldn't measure it at 6 a.m., whatever. But if we don't know what is okay and what isn't, then some people will not voice their opinion about work products, which is what we're expected to do. That's why we're here, to express opinion about work product, not about performance. And that's why I suggested that change. And if it's not, and if it remains as work in an ambiguous kind of connotation, then I think it needs to go to the city council to decide whether that's something that we should do.
Well, I think, well, personally, I will say that we will take this feedback and I'm sure we can come up with some additional language that will address the issues that have been raised. I'd also share, as I've been thinking about this conversation, just, you know, as commissioners, you were selected by the city council because you reflect a variety of perspectives. And we certainly, as staff, don't want to inhibit that at all. And I think you can depend on our relationships, whether it's with the chair, whoever happens to be the chair, because they have a role in ensuring that the work of the commission can proceed effectively, along with your staff liaison, as well as myself and others as may be appropriate to involve in the conversation, simply to ensure that, again, we're in alignment in ways that allow the discussion to proceed without reaching a point of raising a concern among the groups. So I think that's part of our jobs, while it's not perhaps as explicit as the specific example you just described.
Not Councilman.
Could I, I'm sorry I was late. Delighted to be here, to be your liaison as always, really enjoying this conversation and just reflecting on some of the comments. You know, Commissioner Axelrod made the point, I'm a newbie and kind of looking at all of this fresh. And I think for a newbie to look at items 1 through 8, not having been here, you have to presume you have to ask what prompted this. Maybe there was a misunderstanding or an overreach or you know, there was the need to reiterate these norms. What prompted that need? It makes you curious, like, what are we trying to avoid? We can all largely appreciate these expectations, but you know, what kind of behavior is considered in violation of these expectations? And when you're new, you really don't know. And then to Commissioner Kleinhaus's point on cultural norms and different manners of speaking, different ways of thinking, it can be further confusing, you know, is what I understand to be, you know, respecting everyone's time or supporting professional respectful conduct. Am I doing it the way I'm expected to do it? And the fact that we can have cultural differences around that is valid. So when I put those together, what I think might be further useful, should there be an appetite for this, is some scenario examples, you know, where you can say, for example, respecting everyone's time looks like this. This is what respecting time looks like, blah, blah, blah. You know, you put some names, fake names, Joe did this and Elizabeth did that and so, right, and then you draw a line and say, this is crossing the line. This is not respecting time. And you give an outrageous example that we can all laugh at and agree, I would never do that. But we appreciate that we're being advised, like, this is helpful, this is harmful. And I think sometimes the scenarios which, you know, allow us to read about human behavior can give color and texture and context to that and help us understand kind of what are we really being asked not to do, because we're being asked what to do here. But I think it's also helpful to see the inverse, which is this is really what process we're doing and what we'd like to try to.
But I think that I know that, I don't know if the new commissioners, but I believe that there's a session where new commissioners go through kind of a onboarding, yes. And I know that these guys probably went through one, but I don't remember 4 years ago. I guess I lost track of the count. Anyway, I lose track of my age, but that's probably what so I assume that they do go through the handbook, and that would be the time to kind of go through those scenarios. And so this is more, there's no action item required here other than if I just kind of giving it sort of a refresher of what those things are. But if people here are commissioners who've been on the commission for a while, did not go through the handbook to kind of know what these things are, then yeah, you can be.
Yeah, and put over the chair just said, and I'll be happy to go through the training again. The next training coming up, it's just refreshing my mind and also what, city council, defining what should be avoided. I really enjoyed the training for the non-bias training, so understanding, the Jewish culture, Arab culture, a lot more. It's amazing insights, and I felt those training you provide is really insightful in our time, and it's really helped everybody to understand how to our city become very international, multicultural, and it was our commission self reflects that. And I'm really glad City Council will choose the right commissioners to reflect the whole fabric of our city. So, and it is really helpful to refresh how we should do a better job. We have public comments limited to 3 minutes, and then maybe we should have some self-censorship. Every comment we make should not be.
Well,
too
even the
long.
city council does that.
Okay, yes.
It's 5 minutes. City council.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Thanks for this.
very good. No, thank you. Appreciate the feedback and take that to the next step.
Thank you.
Okay. Move on to the next agenda item. Sure. Okay. Brown Act refreshment.
Tim Shelley. Our attorneys is going to take care of that. Recognition.
So my name is Tim Shimizu. I'm an assistant city attorney for the city of Palo Alto. Some of you know me. I don't know, has anyone seen me before, met me before? Yeah, so you see me on the TV, the back of my So, and I guess, has anyone, who's been on the commission for like less than a year? Okay, so you two are new, Chair Smith, and who's been on it for 2 to 5 years? Okay, so many of you. And anyone more than 5 years? Or had a previous term combined more than 5 years? Okay, so a lot of you are veterans. Okay, so that will help me sort of adjust my presentation to what's going on. So I guess for Commissioner Axelrod and Commissioner Smith, since you are newer, do either of you have any specific questions or unexpected encounters with the Brown Act so far?
The deep dive in the onboarding session was pretty thorough.
Okay, so pretty thorough. Okay, message received. You'll need to go into super detail today with the review. Okay, and Commissioner Smith, any issues so far?
No, not really. I just want to make sure, looking forward to your president, I don't get myself in trouble.
Oh, okay. So, you won't, I'm sure you won't. You have a lot of good role models on this commission, so we'll get through it. And anyone else, the more veterans, do you have anyone have any issues, specific questions? Things you really want me to cover?
I think the question would be how often is there an amendment to the Brown Act, and when those things do happen, if I could communicate it in a fashion.
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So I'll hit some points today that are things that are new. But the Brown Act, just to answer your question directly, the Brown Act doesn't get amended like on a regular basis. So like any other law, the legislature in the state and in Sacramento decides when they want to amend it based on whatever is happening. A lot of recent Brown Act amendments, as you know, have come because of COVID-19 and the need to do remote meetings and to facilitate, respond to that more, along with increases in technology that make that happen and to facilitate that. So we'll get started. So just as a review, the Brown Act is state law. It governs all local agencies, including the city council and all of its subsidiary commissions that are created by council action. And so just to remember that the Brown Act is designed to foster public participation and supervision of local government. And so while there are ways of coming to consensus faster and maybe easier, like, why can't we just email each other all the time? Or why can't we just have a Teams chat or something? Brown Act is, the stated intent of the Brown Act is to make sure that the actions of local agencies can be taken openly and that deliberations be conducted openly. And the people insist on remaining informed so that they remain control, they may retain control over the instruments they have created. So it's important to remember the Brown Act is the foundation of our participatory democracy on the local level here in California. Very important. Okay, next slide. One map. Okay, so as you know, the Brown Act has 3 essential requirements. So number 1, posting agendas in advance. You have to let the public know what you're going to talk about so they can come and participate if they want to. Number 2, you have to conduct your business in open public meeting at a regular time and place. So the public knows what's being decided and why, right? So and that's just as important to remember is they want to know why you're deciding what you're deciding. That's why not just your voting is in public, but also your deliberation, right? And number 3, to foster public participation, public comment once on items on the agenda and on every item. So the public has to be able to speak and tell you what they think. You know, you don't have to respond to that. It's not an open forum for, questions or anything, but you at least have to hear them out. Okay. Does anyone have any unique experiences, especially with public participation? I know you have a lot of hot issues that come to the PRC. Yes.
But, we don't get the letters from the public ahead of the meeting. And so somebody wants to comment and somebody sends a letter. We don't often see them, so late in the process. So I don't know if there's any way to make the letters from the public more accessible.
Okay, so
I can speak to that. We are standardizing things as a city, and for the commission, I believe, Aaron, we post on Thursdays for our standard meetings. So you'll have them the Thursday before your meeting on Tuesdays. And it's posted on the agenda. We are looking at also speaking with our clerk team and also maintaining what we can maintain ongoing. So it's not as confusing to everybody, but if that's something that we're hearing from the full commission that we like PDF, public comments, we can speak to our clerk team and standard, but we are across the board working on posting, and that has been rolled out as of January.
That goes with the agenda, and often people only respond to the agenda when they see that, and that's when they send letters. So if we don't get the letters, people respond to the agenda until after the agenda item is no longer relevant. We discussed it last time, and we lose public input. I just would like to have all the public input when we discuss it. And I know you add sometimes at the end, but it's
Correct. So what we've tried to do is the meeting goes at the packets published on Tuesday for your meetings on Tuesdays. We then post public comment on Thursday. So it does allow for some time to capture any public comments that come in prior to your meeting. However, if there is a hot topic that we are receiving a significant amount of feedback, we then for, let's say, pickleball items, we've done this for, in addition to the turf study, we've added those items actually within the packet for that item. So that has been our practice, and
Is that consistent with process? That's city council and the commission with public comments.
I can't speak to city council. I think this is the commission. Bias.
What's a little different for the city council is there's a mailbox, so you could receive those direct, so a city.council mailbox that would then forward to your individual mailboxes or email addresses. I don't know that you want that to, again, be overwhelmed when incoming emails come together. So the batching that staff is currently doing helps organize that for you rather than could be 3 o'clock in the morning. You could see the as the city council does.
maybe link to all the comments that were submitted by Tuesday morning.
Are you requesting an updated, public comment batching up until Tuesday morning, the morning of your meeting? Is that
Or Monday night, yeah, because, you know, as somebody who often comments on maybe commissions all over the county, we often, you know, don't really respond, or if you see something, let's say if you're an organization, pretty cares about bikes. And there is an agenda item, so you'd see it on the agenda on Tuesday before, and then you send an alert to people, hey, this is coming, if you're interested, do something. And then they'll start responding, but it takes some time. So, and I've seen in the packets things that are kind of obsolete, they commented on something we discussed and we get it. So I'm trying to figure out if there is, when is the best paddle for people to be able to comment, maybe over the weekend, so we can still get their comments.
So can we can probably address that one later, for right now this. But it's a good point, because I think wanting to, mission time makes a good point about the agenda goes out a week before, people may or may not review it until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. And so it'd be nice to have as much of an update as to what comes in before the, you're seeing.
understood?
Yeah.
Feedback, yeah.
Okay, we can, what's the next?
That's a question.
Yes.
Just like, public participation, if a commissioner is organizing specific public commenters via email, telling them to make comments about this or texting them during the meeting, this is your time to comment, make your comments to pursue their own agenda, is that a violation of Brown Act?
We will get there, but generally, no. You can talk to, commissioners can talk to the general public for the most part, and I'll explain the fine points in this, in the next few slides. So go to the records as well. Yes, okay. So what is a meeting? You know what a meeting is. It's when any majority of you are talking about something, whether you're physically together or not. So, you know, this retreat is included as a meeting, so that's why we have our whole setup here. There are some exceptions to what a meeting is. You know, if there really is an exception, your staff liaison will help you kind of work through that. But for the most part, a meeting is anytime the majority of you are together, and that's the thing to watch out for, is just to make sure that four of you do not engage in the same conversation, whether you're physically there or not. So just a key reminder. Okay, next slide. One back.
Oh, quick.
Okay, yes.
So if we all do an offsite to Foothills Park to see something, a lot of us there.
Yeah.
Where's that land?
So an offsite, say, field trip for your commission tends to usually be a meeting because you're all there together and you're all taking in information at the same time.
So the public would be invited.
So the public would be invited, would most typically be an agendized item. There are some exceptions, but I think even if you all promise, say, like, just to go there and not talk to each other, it does give an impression that, you know, well, how could they not talk to each other, right? When they're all getting this information, right? So it is, we would probably tend to agendize that as a regular meeting. But you are allowed to do that, you know, go offsite, look at things, if you want to go to Foothills or any of the city's facilities, or even another city's facilities, because you want to go see what they're doing. You know, you can do that, you know, staff time and resources.
What if you break it up, like maybe 3 go on Tuesday?
Sure.
Wednesday.
Yeah, so that might be okay in some circumstances, but you know, we of course want to make sure that we don't give any appearances. So, you know, if there's a specific thing that you guys are doing, we'll work together and, you know, make it happen. Yes.
So the informal meeting, say, I'm good friends with you, they go to a Christmas dance,
Sure.
and I can only bring chair,
Yeah.
I cannot bring two, Alex, that's why.
So it's, you know, it's really a question of being faithful to the Brown Act. So of course, a social situation like a Christmas party that has nothing to do with PRC. Of course, if you all happen to be there, like, real life, it can't stop you. But you really have to be on your best behavior and make sure that you're not talking about business because other people see you there, all there, or, majority of you there, and people will say, oh, well, I thought I heard them talk about X, Y, and Z, right? So it's really, your honor code to police yourselves at that point. So, but of course, the Brown Act doesn't want to get involved with too much with your personal life that's outside of your citizens. So, okay. Next slide. Oh, actually, yeah, remote attendance. So speaking of updates, remote attendance this year for Just Cause and remote attendance. Just Cause was something that was developed during COVID that says if you're sick or if you're taking care of someone that's sick or you're injured, you can attend a meeting, what's called Just Cause attendance. You don't have to give out your address. You don't have to let people come into your house. You can say just up front at the beginning of the meeting, I have a reason that's under this list. I would like to participate remotely. Staff make sure to say, okay, great. Like, thank you for telling us. We don't need to know any of the specifics necessarily. Then you can do that. And you can do that 2 times a year. For 2026, what's new is that Just Cause has 2 new reasons that you can use. The first is if you are immunocompromised, that's a reason to use Just Cause. And the second one is if you are on military reserve service and you are more than 50 miles away from here. So I don't know if any of you are on military reserve, but you are, this is for you. So just remember that if you plan on using Just Cause, it's likely because you're sick, or because you're taking care of someone that's sick. So it's sort of an emergent situation. You should still let your staff representatives know because they have requirements too to make sure that you can do this properly. Foremost is that they have to make sure your video is working. And they have to make sure that they still have a quorum in person. So they do have to track of that too. So just remember to let them know as soon as you can, even if it's the same day, it's better than right before the meeting.
The medical emergency.
Yeah.
The out of cold, that's not an emergency.
So that's not an emergency, but there's a lot more reasons than just this. Yeah, so the Just Cause includes things like just games.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's medical emergency is sort of.
Medical issue.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to understand, like, you had a real medical emergency, why would you be remotely attended, but hey, if you want to.
But yeah, the family member is sick.
Yeah, and so, and it's not just for you, it's if you're caring for someone who is sick, that's also included. And so, the staff is not gonna ask for your doctor's note or for you to explain your national or show
You don't
your.
necessarily.
Yeah, show your past or anything, we don't wanna know. Yeah. What is important is that you just let them know, as soon as you can, and that way they can help us out. Okay. And then there is what's called, just so that we can make a draw a line in the sand, there is something called standard remote attendance, and this is the process where you put your address on the agenda and open up your wherever you are to the public and all of that. So that is always available too. That's usually if people are traveling and they want to participate remotely from their hotel or wherever they are. That's always an option, but that definitely requires a lot of advance notice because their information has to go on the agenda. So always remember, if you can plan for that in advance, always let them know. So it's okay. Next slide. Okay, so to answer your question earlier about what is allowed, so communications can generally occur outside of an open public agendized meeting between you, a member, and a member of the public, any member of the public, you and a member of staff. So we regularly do that by email, whatever. And member to member, but as long as, again, you're not violating the majority rule. So let's go to the next slide. We can go into this a little bit further. Okay, so some potential pitfalls when you're talking with constituents, with public. So be careful of a person emails the majority or all of you in the same email. So someone says, emails all 7 of you, says, I hope you vote yes on this upcoming item. Could you please email me back and let me know that that's what you're gonna do, so then, otherwise I wanna bring all my people with me. So you have to put the brakes on that, because now all 7 of you are in the same email, right? So now you're potentially in a meeting. And you can contact staff, or one of you can contact that person and say, thank you for your comment. This is potentially in violation. If we keep going with this, we can't do that. I hope you come to the meeting and bring your people regardless and participate in let us know. So
But reply to them only.
just
not-
reply them only, yeah. And, staff can help take care of that if around the world back. But just know that it does happen sometimes. People are, get on these campaigns, they find out your email addresses and they wanna really do all they can to advocate for their project. And I know, we saw earlier today that happens sometimes, so, which is great. So just be aware of that. Yeah.
How do I know that email exists?
Sure, so you get an email from the public and you see that that person sent the same email, like all 7 of your commission email addresses are in like the 2, or then that's when you have to confirm. Not just.
Or ECC.
Or,
Yes,
yeah, so
yeah.
sometimes it's BCC,
Yeah,
right?
so
You don't know.
we
Yeah.
don't know if it's BCC, what do
Yeah.
we do with that?
So if it's BCC, you don't know, and if you're replying just to that person, then it only goes to that person, right? Like all 7 of you won't get it, so that's okay in something, right? It's just if they start calling you or asking you for some kind of response that they may or may not share with everyone else, they say, oh, if they give some indication like, oh, I asked Commissioner Sarah, and she says she's gonna go, yes. What about you? And then that starts getting into a conversation.
The safest way is to forward it to the
Stop.
staff.
So yeah, you can always forward things to staff and say, hey, what should I do? That's always there for you. They ask me if they can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just one other question. Am I under any obligation to respond?
No, so that's a very good point. So you are not under any obligation to respond unless the person is asking for documents. So if the person is saying, I would like certain documents related to some project, forward that to staff and staff will handle that. There's another law called the Public Records Act that says if a person requests documents from the government has to respond within a certain amount of time. And even if they, the wrong person in government, so like the wrong person is actually going to fulfill it, that request still has to get funneled to the right person. So that's the only time you have to, you don't even have to respond to that person, you just have to make sure that email gets there. Yes.
Can I offer an example that I've encountered that might help you understand where the line is to the extent you're getting worried about interactions with members of the public. So on the city council, for example, we might have a housing project coming before us soon. And the developers want to ask to meet with each of us to go over their project and answer any questions. They're allowed to do that. They're allowed to contact all 7 of us. But when they meet with one of us, they cannot tell us what any of the others, they should not tell us what any of the others believe about it. So it's our obligation when they start to do that, right? So they're totally within their rights to reach out to all of you. But if in that conversation they say, well, I spoke to the chair or I spoke to Commissioner Brown, what you should do right away is say, actually, please don't tell me what my colleagues think. I'm not allowed to know. There's this thing called the Brown Act. You're allowed to talk to all of us, but we're not allowed to know what each other thinks outside of an agendized meeting. And it's important that they not be made to feel they're doing anything wrong. It's like, you can help us safeguard this policy by, like, I'm informing you of a law that I need you to help me comply with, but don't tell me, right, what others think. Tell me what you think. I might tell you what I think, but don't share what my colleagues think.
Yeah. So that's an excellent point. You can have like what I would call a one-way conversation. where they tell you what they want to, you can ask them questions, of course, to clarify what's going on, but no discussions with each other through this prompts. So, okay, yes.
So if I wanted to send something, everyone, it's not related to anyone or an event, not something, an event that I think other people in the commission may be interested in. Can I send it to the PRC or do I need to send it to staff so they can, and say, can you send it to PRC?
It's usually best if your rep, because that way it doesn't generate any follow-on conversation that may intrude into what could violate that.
It could be interpreted like someone.
Yeah,
An invite to that meeting.
yeah. So,
The other option would be, there's a standard Parks and Rec Commission email that gets posted in your packet. And that you can email because it doesn't go directly to you. It basically goes to our inbox that staff manages and then we'll post.
so it's,
If we send it to PRC, not individually, then that goes to you and you can see and.
No, then it would become a public record. Yeah.
so it's. Another way is just to announce things out, of course, at the meeting. But we're always, I think as the attorney who probably has the most conservative stance, we're always a little bit wary of people emailing to the rest of their colleagues, even if it's something not related to business. So just, that's what I'll say. Okay, but we do try to facilitate that for staff, so that's sort of our practical solution. Okay, so we have been through these. So again, remember, staff is always a resource when you encounter thorny issues, so you can always ask them. Chances are that the PRC will always hear something hot topic a few times a year, so there's no, this is what their job is here for, is to help facilitate those. Okay. Okay, social media has slightly different rules about what constitutes a meeting. So in social media, just remember that you cannot like or comment on anything that any of the other ones, any of your other fellow commissioners post on social media, even if it's just one of them. So so it's the last one. So individual commissioners cannot respond directly to any social media posts or other communication on social media regarding the PRC business or anything within the subject matter of the PRC. If posted there, so just be really careful about that. That's the only time when even just interacting with one person on the commission can run into the record. So, we may be posting things like come to our meeting and talk about X, Y, and Z. And you might see that and, you may be tempted to say, oh, yeah, or it's a great time. So please don't do that. That's the one time that only interacting with one person. Okay, next slide. Okay, so again, social media tips. So obviously social media is very powerful. It's how everything seemingly is transmitted these days in terms of information. You as a PRC commissioners have special inherent voice that people will listen to. Use it as you may, but just remember you're not using it to talk to each other, interact with each other, including just things like that. But seems pretty innocuous, right? But you do have this platform. Yes.
Tim, what if it's not a commissioner post, but somebody says, well, PRC, if we get in there and thumbs up, and that was also thumbs up, oh, are we in trouble now because we?
Yeah, I mean, it might be a technical violation. What's gonna happen to that? But, it's again, we don't want to, what would be worse is if someone actually puts a position on their social media, say, I'm against project X, Y, and Z. And 3 of you like that post, and you can see that. Now it's almost like you're having a discussion. You can see this consensus. So you just have to be really careful. careful about that. And I know it's like another area trap, right? Like, I don't know. My fellow colleagues have like this or anything like that. It's really just to make sure. It's for you just to be aware. And it's just to police yourselves as best you can, not to engage each other. So, you know, are you going to achieve perfection? Maybe that's probably okay, but you know, as much as you can avoid it, you know, if you all know that this person has the ear of all of you, you know, maybe you don't want to interact with their social media. So just something to be aware of.
So the point would be. It's initiated usually by someone from the public or someone who's saying this appears to be around that. That's what, I mean, it's not like the city attorney or the assistant city attorney says this.
Yeah.
Usually it's as a result of someone
Yeah.
questioning it as being.
You know, so of course, that's the flip side of social media is of course everything you do is visible by someone, right? So you know, me as the assistant city attorney is not looking at monitoring all of your frequently monitoring all your social media.
As if you have the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. But it's out there, and if you know some hater really wants to derail something, they can say, hey, look at this.
There's a degree of freedom. We have either a job. It's involved in programs like governing or other things. Here are involved in, and so if they're friends of something, post something. If, and the person is on the board with the friend of something. Can they like that post? Or can I like that post even if I'm not on the board?
So, yeah, so I could see this, like, let's say, Coverly, right? And everyone on PRC is invested in different ways with that money. And they are starting to put materials out about their plan and things like that. So, and because that's within the PRC subject matter area and also actual, right? So what are things you could do that are not interacting with each other? You know, you can repost it. You can send things to your own networks. What gets more into dangerous territory is if you all like the same posts, start doing that or starting commenting on the same post. So it's back to the one-way conversation. It's like you can get that when you do it, but you can't start engaging with them. So just something to think about when you're engaging with social media on passionate topics that are within your skills. You know, you can help broadcast it. But it may not be the best place for you to engage. Especially on certain big threats. Because yeah, you might not. And that can happen in other positions too. Like, say like a lot of members are part of some kind of having the same political side thing. Yeah. Okay. Next slide. Oh, I guess. Okay. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. As you counselor the faculty for giving your helpful advice. Breaking the time, council. And I hope that if you have any questions going forward, always wrap them to care of them. They are very wonderful staff. I work with them all the time. So they will help you through this process as well. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Tim, I'm gonna add one more thing, if I may. It's a capstone or captive story that I shared. Sometimes we do have an inclination to respond to that email because we want the writer, the constituent to feel seen and heard. And recently with the suicide at the train tracks, we were receiving lots of emails. And I am in the habit of replying to people as often as I can, often just to express thank you or, you know, whatever. So I replied, this person had written the entire city council, the entire Palo Alto School Board, some other people, and I replied to her. Because I know that's my obligation. She then replied to me and CC'd all of those people, so they could all then see what I had said. So then I replied only to her. And I tried to instruct her on the Brown Act, then I said, I understand, you know, I chose to reply only to you because I have an obligation to comply with this law. So I took a chance, I suppose, right? I had no idea she was gonna do that. But it's on me, and I did say some substantive things in there about my feelings about rail safety and what have you, so I learned a lesson from that. You know, don't put it in writing unless you want to see it in the newspaper, don't put it in writing unless you want everybody to be, you know, CC'd on the reply. So there are ways you can get tripped up even when you have the best intention.
Yeah.
My intention was to reply only to her, I knew that was my job. But I'm not in charge of what she does in response.
So what would you do different next time? Do you say, can we talk for 5 minutes? Or-
Maybe. Yeah, I would, or I might say in my initial reply, you know, I'm choosing to reply to you. I'd like you to know how I feel about this. Please do not reply to members of the city council because we have this law called the Brown Act. And I do a little bit of, might develop a little macro template where I can just put in my Brown Act precursor. Yeah.
Good idea.
Quick question, what about the telephone?
So the telephone, like, can you talk to someone? Like,
If somebody calls me,
so if someone calls you and you actually want to talk to them, so again, you don't, there's no obligation that you have to talk to anyone. Kind of talk, they call you. And if you want to talk to them, sure, you can talk to them, just like you can talk to anyone else through email or any other means. The same general rules apply. So if they start telling you what your colleagues, what they, you know, if your colleagues have told them, you have to stop them. In general, that's fine.
I think something that recently came up, and I think examples are good, is there is a hot topic, and I think the commission, which I believe I spoke with you about, was there was a constituent who was interested in speaking with a lot of people. Could you maybe speak to that? Like, we have ad hocs and we also have liaisons, and if there is an ad hoc, I think that's an opportunity where they can meet, and you can also recommend, oh, it would be best if you speak with this ad hoc or this liaison. Because that, then they can do the work and bring it back to the commission at full. And that way it's safe and, it's also could be viewed as like a best practice, but do you want to speak?
Sure, yeah, so in general, you know, nothing stops a member of the public from calling you and you listening. As long as they don't start saying what, you know, other commissioners' ideas or maybe thoughts on it. Especially if they've called other ones, say, well, I talked to so and so also, and don't you feel the same way? Like, you know, that's, you have to put breaks in. So you can remind, if you do get a call and you're sort of like, oh, I don't want to get in trouble here. You can always preface the call by saying, okay, you know, sort of like this macro idea. So I just want to let you know up front that I can listen to what you want to say, but I can't engage if, you know, please don't tell me if you've talked to my colleagues already what they think. And I may not be able to, you know, give you full answers or my thoughts because I, you know, I need to do that at the meeting instead of. So, you know, it's. You may or may not want to even take obviously, depends, right? There are circumstances different, but you know, if that's how public wants to engage you, they certainly. Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. That was the easy part. Now let's actually, let's move to the next agenda item, which is the annual review of the 2025 Park and Recreation Conference. This is all, you know, we've had a lot of things happen during the year, so it's always nice to at this retreat to kind of go over what those accomplishments have been. So we can feel that our efforts on working with ad hocs, being part of liaisons, our, sometime long meetings at the PRC, but we have actually accomplished a lot, so I want to pass it on to the vice chair, who's going to, give us an update about things that are.
Thanks, Chair. I'm delighted to update and refresh what we have accomplished 2025. So at the beginning, we did a CIP review based on the feedback in 2024 December, and the special meeting in the CIP plan was brought forward for review and discussion again during January 28, 2025. So we can have the right feedback on the proposed plan for 2026 to 2030. And for the park dedication ad hoc in 2016, on June 18, 2025, we held a ribbon cutting for Bird Early Tower World Park, which is a deserted park for a long time, and we refurbished and also opened it with thanks to all the city council members who attending, including our liaison. Bayland Comprehensive Conservation Plan, which is called BCCP. The ad hoc drafted and reviewed the BCCP, which was backdated to 2022 and updated the next steps and highlighted the gaps and the existing condition, correcting the grammatical technical errors, as well as the need to strengthen our conservation actions, including monitoring progress in the application. We also looked into opportunity to strengthen the wildlife conservation, and the ad hoc also recommended how do we develop a action plan to focus. For the ad hoc nature preserve access policy, we reviewed whether to restrict or expand access within parks and open space reserves, balancing environmental protection, safety, and recreation use as part of the nature preserve access policy follow-up. We also look into the details of the trail conditions, habitat impacts at Pearson Astrodero Reserve. And we supported the seasonal data informed measurement approach, as well as review the public input gathered through a 30-day outside outreach and comment period from the community. Meanwhile, we also provide final recommendations on trail management and habitat protection priorities, and also included the ad hoc committee's work following completion council directed action and provide this update at the October 28th, 2025 meeting. Further, the big project for the wellness center, we collaborate with city staff to look into the outreach on stakeholders and community feedback. Also hosted couple community meetings with city staff in January 2025, I believe also September as well, to present to explore potential locations. And we continue to collaborate with friends, Park Recreation Wellness Center board of directors, so that we can provide feedback to the PSC based on relevant input. And also we transitioned to this for the liaison as work is still ongoing. For the actual playing fields, we have collaborated with the staff on the citywide turf study by participating in the focus groups, and also we supplied prior research and informing evaluation criteria. Meanwhile, we advanced the formal recommendation to City Council through the Parks and Rec Commission on its October 28th, 2022.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
What was that? What was the recommendation?
Recommendation for, we voted on it for the turf. You mean, yeah, I think it was I was actually missing that meeting. It was for hybrid approach using.
Correct, so it was to replace with the synthetic with natural infill, including risk mitigation measures, in addition to starting a pilot.
Yeah.
A natural grass pilot.
And the city council actually referred with that at a later.
So just as a general comment to understand, sometimes we recommend, sometimes what are our choices? To city council.
We would vote for,
There are certain things they ask us to vote on.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
yeah, yeah.
Certain things that are forwarded, city council wants this group's feedback on to advise on. As the subject matter experts. So then when it comes to them, some of their constituents have already reviewed and vetted. So that just helps them make a better informed decision.
Thank you, thank you. Good.
Yes. So for the record policy, ad hoc, we have, out, the PRC have completed a whole comprehensive review for the record sports policies, including food conservations, both for tennis and pickleball courts. And it's also included, we developed the best practices for policy review for tennis courts reservation practice to support residents' access and implementing pickleball improvements such as stripping it, lecture school, talent park, and evaluation multi-use opportunities to.
Could I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Were those done?
Yes, we did, but it's ongoing. We still have a policy meeting to be on the agenda in March.
So I'll be more specific, we did update and get approved the tennis policy change, which was the residency for USTA rentals. And pickleball or court usage is still ongoing, and that's coming back early this year.
And I was most interested in striping that fletcher.
That took place and it was approved.
That is.
Yes.
That's complete. Okay, that's what I want. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the tenth and pickleball study have been also completed and is scheduled for implementation to the PRC area. So will be happening. And that is expensive work following 12 months after including two PRC presentations and extensive engagement with both tennis and football stakeholders. Thanks, Kevin, for the very thorough work on that. I don't know how much you put into this. And for the ad hoc of middle school athletes, the ad hoc rotate to the middle school athlete program and they investigate the alternative operation models. And also have decided if alternative models will create better programming for our community to access and timing. We also evaluated contracting out to vendors for individual sports and the entire program as well. We also done recommendation for keeping the current ongoing program and how to optimize the cost to users, cost to the city, and meanwhile retain flexibility in programming to meet our needs of our large community. And then last but not least, the recovery project, which under the gigantic project, we are ongoing with the staff on community engagement and activation to increase community awareness and involvement in this project. And that's all we have.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? I will say that just looking at that there were a number of things that we have accomplished. There kind of think through these as well. Some of these might end up being added back as an ad hoc or a liaison, but like your question about what how do we decide on what items are going to be agenda, on the ad hoc, or it's not like, for instance, the middle school athletics was one that was added. We, let's say in April, will take our work plan that we worked on today to the city council. And they did this last year, and the middle school athletics actually was one that was recommended by the city council. That actually came up about as a result of a public comment that eventually morphed into becoming an item that would be added to for the Parks and Rec.
Chair, commissioners, I heard one, I believe, Vice Chair Wade corrected and had an additional meeting for the recreation wellness. So are there any other edits now that you're seeing it all for the first time, right? These accomplishments were submitted by the group here. If there's any revisions, now's the time. This item, along with others, will come back for your approval at the end of the month. So if there's any revisions, now's kind of the time to speak up. So, if and it sounds like perhaps there's another wordsmith that we might need to clarify the pickleball, the USTA.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the
Can you go back to that? Is there anything on that? I know and these are the result of us working with the staff liaison to complete this. If you remember, you were asked for your input to wrap up those items on the ad hoc that have been completed. So if there's been any changes, modifications that need to be made, this should be a point in time to do. Adam, you're good with that particular.
Yeah, I mean, it's only if we want to be more specific, right? I mean, in the first, do we want to talk specifically about the update to the UST rental policy? I mean, I think it's covered.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm okay with that bullet point. It's just a matter of whether we want to be real specific, just, I don't know.
Well, I mean, as we start talking, I mean, as we get into the process of developing the work plan, it might be to me, if that's still work, there's still some work to be done on that. Do we consider adding that as a ad hoc, or maybe get dropped down to a liaison that you'll continue to discuss in that case? We'll talk about it. Okay. Excuse me.
Move on to the next.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, I think we're making good time.
Good.
I think
Okay.
we're about 10 minutes behind. So.
Okay, well, good. That's better than we were before. Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item, which will review and update current priorities.
So I can kick it off. We've started out this presentation just with the CIPs that are being proposed for fiscal year 27. This is everything that you saw during your January meeting. So last month, I've identified this specifically. These are all the parks items. And then if you want to flip to the next slide, there's a header for recreation and their CIPs, open space for their CIPs in addition to golf. So again, nothing new here. This is just reiterating what staff's priorities and what we plan to execute on. And then if you continue to the next slide, some additional staff priorities that you'll find here is some of our major ones, which also align very well with some of your work plan items, which include the Coverly project, the natural grass pilot, which was an outcome of the turf study. We're also going to continue to focus on diverse programming to meet and enhance community needs, which is a component of our recreation. The golf course compliance and mitigation and monitoring requirements. Of course, the CIPs that we just went over. And then really to dovetail to the city council's new priorities, we wanted to really add the operational excellence and efficiencies, which we plan to streamline processes. So it sounds like we heard earlier something about similar like public comments. So those ways we will be looking into cross-departmental coordination, data-informed decision-making, maximizing use of existing resources, as well as delivering projects on time and within budget. And then we'll continue to, for our recruitments, is hiring, a lot of hourlies for our summer, programs. And then really just workforce stability. Staff, we're looking, it's a priority for staff retention, professional development, as well as succession planning. And then I'll hand it back over to the chair.
Yeah, so what in looking at,
I just had a quick question, and forgive me if I'm out of order here. Okay, but how many staff are in this one? Oh, are anybody?
Yeah.
Vacancies. Yes, vacancies.
Vacancies for, oh, sorry, clarification question, for open space, parks and golf, as well as recreation. Is it
Yeah,
like
my
the
question is-
purview of,
My question is, because I hear this in the public, it seems like you can have a lot of things that there's been an open position. It's taken a while to fill those for a lot of reasons, but in fairness, we're in business and you're not doing something in the business without the waves. So I was just curious.
yeah, I think if you flip back to the slide before this. About the next, yeah. So when you talk,
Cover that later, that's fine.
yeah, no, I think what the maximizing use of existing resources kind of ties in. Because you have enough
Yes,
resources
that's a
to
better way.
work on the different projects that we are reflected work plan items. And we're working with staff. If there's things that keep moving from year to year, then and if you're not, let's say, maximizing your resources by hiring the folks that you need to.
Well, not, well, there's two types in my mind, refilling the position and then this new position. But under the assumption that was a good position to have, that's what I was. But that's pretty minute, so we want.
No, I think. That's good.
well, I would say overall, we are probably the most fully staffed, I can speak, that I've been here for almost 2.5 years, and that our side of the house, and maybe Adam, you can speak to recreation, but we have, yeah, I believe one, that is currently not filled, one position, which, on our field.
So would you say that we're in a better position now
Definitely.
than we have been
And
in the previous 2 years, I guess? in
and
trying to-
as you know, we've had a lot of transition also at, with our AD, changing, so we're happy Ben's here and, we're excited to, I think, push things forward now.
Recreation.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. I think we only have one opening that was a promotion, so that's great.
Just a follow-up to that, within our existing team. There's always opportunity. How do we retool certain assignments, functions to align with the city council, looking at certain projects, and there's ongoing operations and maintenance that maybe we can develop. So we're always looking at that to ensure. That's kind of like good. I was getting squeeze 11, right? Because you only have so much. Thank you.
Also, questions, does the public get to speak about these items? Can we ask them if there's anyone to do or anything?
Oh, Eric, are you, that's correct, because we do have a number of them have like here to speak for item number 7. Have you been keeping? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the point is we start, when we start working on working on the work plan is to kind of reflect back to what the staff priorities are. And the staff priorities. I think Sarah and I mentioned it's also aligned with city council priorities.
Yes.
And our park and rec priorities that we'll cover here as well. To look at whether or not those are aligned with, this, they're very much aligned with the, city council priorities and the park, staff priorities. We'll say last year, and then we look at them this year and see whether or not they're still in alignment. When you look at these are the new city council priorities, which are different from what they were last year. I don't know if Councilmember Haynes wants to kind of give it a brief, kind of what. I think you might have done it before, but maybe just something.
Happy to. We really took a different approach this year. Mayor Vinker led that effort to define a set of priorities that are actually actionable. For a number of years now, our priorities were more like, and I don't have them memorized, but they were things like climate action and sustainability, housing, wellness and belonging, et cetera. And so they were topics that were things we really believe in rather than things that were actionable. So this year, the radical move by the city council was, let's have a set of priorities that are more specific. Let's take those things we believe in that we've been calling our priorities year over year over year since I've been on council. Let's elevate them to our council values. So we're working on redefining our values, about 7 or 8 values that speak to climate and speak to equity and speak to housing and speak to economic vitality. And so we've kind of elevated the lofty language to values, and then we've made priorities that are more specific. So Coverly acquisition and renovation funding is a great example. That is, you know, an enormous project, but it's not a value, it's not a belief, it's a do. And government efficiency, this is how we conduct ourselves so that we are, you know, utilizing public resources efficiently, effectively. We're paying attention to revenue and expenses in a tough economic climate. Achieve near-term priority housing milestones is an example of something that, you know, housing was a priority, or we articulated it in a more lofty way. This is trying to drill into the specifics. Like, we do have near-term milestones. We have projects in the pipeline. We have, you know, programs that have to be developed in accordance with what we've told the state we're going to do for our housing element. So that was an attempt to be more specific, and then enhance business vibrancy. This is, you know, all of the ways in which our regulatory environment is not necessarily conducive to retail right now. So what do we need to do on zoning? What do we need to do to create the right incentives for people to want to be here as a business owner? And, you know, why does that matter? Because we want a vital city. We need the revenue that comes from the businesses. We need the vitality that comes from the businesses. So this was an effort to be just more specific than we had been, so that we can then hold ourselves and staff collectively accountable to, you know, how did we do on these priorities? And then the staff has this, you know, enormous work plan. We call it the menu, or the, what do we call it? It's like 70 items that you kind of track, relate to what the city council has articulated as priorities. So there, under each one of these things, you'll find a number of projects, programs, efforts that staff is working on. And of course, staff is doing plenty of other things beyond these things, as well they should. So this is, you know, we'll see when we get to the end of this year, did this turn out to make us more productive and focusing on the things we intend to focus on, and did it end up offering greater direction to staff on you know, what we want to put over other things.
Thank you.
Well, I think you should be complimented.
Not me, I mean, the team, the whole council, yeah,
You, the
Yeah.
city council,
Yeah.
because this is focus, get it done.
right, that's right.
Very good.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith.
Yeah.
And that get it done mentality was definitely articulated at our retreat.
and trying to reflect back to, if you guys took a snapshot in your mind of those city council priorities and also the priorities for the community services department, which how about at least the CIPs, kind of going back to the next slide. So this is what our current, this are 2025 priorities, and we try and align those with not only the city council, but also alignment with the CIPs that are represented by Sarah. So last year was basically optimize resources to offer diverse recreation opportunities, promote community health and wellness. Again, that tied into last year's council priorities. But in looking at that now, is that still a priority that we have a Park and Rec Commission feel would be the transit in 2026 priorities. And then advanced equity, access, and inclusion for programs, parks, and open spaces. And then the last of which is enhanced biodiversity, environmental sustainability, and climate change. Resilience. So if we kind of look at these as we start working on our work plan, and like it just for point of discussion, is there any changes that anyone would like to make to these? Or do you think these still kind of fit what we think are the priorities going forward?
I think these reflect the values, if not, and include that's very, that's, I think these are generally, this is a framework, I think we work. Not sure what you mean. But if you can go back a couple of slides. The top priorities. You know, I'd like to respond to one of the public earlier who spoke about the school state. That was a mitigation requirement, and from what I understand, so that's a legal requirement. We compensate for impacts to cities for many years. And I understand that stuff has been working to try and resolve this issue, but I think it should be a priority because it's a legal requirement. We comply with mitigation that the city commits. I would like to, if possible, elevate that one, including together potentially with the golf course, which was also very, I think that
These are all the CIPs
the
that
golf,
are.
somewhere here.
Oh, it's this line right here.
Yeah, so, you know, we have the golf course compliance with mitigation, which is also a mitigation requirement. I think things that the city has committed to do as part of development need to be prioritized and resolved. And I understand that that it's difficult, but I still think it's.
I'll just speak at the time gate, during our last meeting, we said we would be doing a formal update, this spring. So we'll bring that back to you, to the group.
Thank you, and also like. Push you.
Yeah.
So a question and a recommendation go forward to the city priority. So I love the actual concrete. I was just wondering, were there any metrics tied to these that also should go down to us, or is it up to us to interpret what?
Somewhere in between. There were no metrics articulated, but this work plan that staff, you know, has laid out that gives a quarter by quarter, you know, is, you know, if there are 70 items that ultimately roll up to these, get sort of, this one's expected in Q3, this one's expected in Q4. So I think if this body was to be aware of that and figure out which of these, you know, it comes within our purview, you know, where might we want to advise? I think that would be a way to be aligned.
I'm wondering whether we should allow the city's priority to be more complete. And then currently, we still have the value in terms of our priorities, whether we should, there is a rebalance we should provide, whether we should have more complete projects like the city has done.
Giving for priority.
Yeah. Opportunities. Just something to think about. I really love the way the city's reorganized from top mission value to concrete, locally relevant goals or priorities. Whether we should act that to do the same.
Well, I think, well, going back to the, Parks and Rec. Priorities.
Keep forward.
Forward. Yeah. So looking at, it's kind of hard to sort of, we don't have a. I think you're getting. Like the enhanced biodiversity, environmental, it kind of covers what. Anything that's dealing, any of our work plans that. Fall into. I think that's kind of, it definitely, that's an important one to keep as. One of our priorities is gonna fit into, we'll start working on the work plan. And we're looking at environmental items. But I think like Commissioner Finance said, I don't, personally, I don't see a lot of, I know we spent a lot of time on this last retreat. I don't. Any other changes that can be made at this point, but
Well, I think to back up what Vice Chair is saying, if we go to the list of amazing projects that staff has on tap for us, it's great, but there's a lot there, and maybe to mirror, if we can choose the priorities of those that we want to make concrete progress on, and say, here's the top 4 to, and then mirror setting, here's the concrete things we want to make sure these 4.
yeah, and that's what when we get into the work plan, that's the vision that we should be looking at. And that is trying to mesh our priorities with when we start working on the work plan, and then kind of looking at our existing items on the work plan and whether or not any of them further enhance.
Comment. In the city survey, Parks got the highest. People love performance. That was the highest score of all of the services that they've done. And it was, and then the second one was recreation, which is kind of connected, and I'm not sure. But I'm just saying, you know, we've been doing well and we should continue.
And we can, you know, I think as we get into the work plan also, is we can, I mean, we're gonna be bouncing back and forth anyway, I think. So, you know, we might find that particular item on the work plan might require enhancing our priorities or vice versa. I think before we get into that discussion, the better. Move on. Oh,
Right, we have right your clock.
Go on.
Tammy, I'm like,
Okay,
it's
that's.
time. I'm looking forward to the.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm, Eric, I'm gonna use the restroom and then maybe we can.
Yeah.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the review and update of the fiscal year 2027 work plan. Are there any public speakers in Zoom or?
Currently one public speaker in public could be Naomi.
Good morning.
Boy,
Sorry I was late. I got stuck on the bridge. I came from Hayward, so it's kind of bad today. The reason I'm gonna cry right now, sorry.
you're good.
Oh, there's nothing to see. No, sorry.
Speak up. Speak up a little.
Oh, I said I don't wanna cry, but every time I talk about this, I cry. When my brother was 12, he went to Ventura Elementary School. And he tragically drowned on a school picnic. I was 13, I was going to Jordan Junior High. My sister was 14, she was going to Jordan Junior High. And his park, it'll be 52 years that his park has been at the, now it's called the Palo Alto Community Child Care Center, which is it used to be Ventura Elementary School. And for some reason, my parents, my dad is 98 and my mom is 88, and they've been married 71 beautiful years. The subject of the park came up, and I recently, in December, I spoke to the city council and I wrote a letter. And then the next day I came and spoke to the Park and Recs department. Because even though the park has been dedicated twice in 74 when he died, and we tried to do it for, I think I have to look at my paper, I'm sorry. It was dedicated in 94. And when he died, the first time it was April 16th of 95, and a gentleman at Park and Recs assisted me. I guess it wasn't official because when he died, the parents and the kids decided they didn't want a graduation. They wanted to build a park in his honor. And it's called the William Frank Peoples Jr. Memorial Playground. It's been there for 52 years, but I guess it was not like official, because when they decided to rebuild all the parks in the area because of safety reasons, when we tried to rededicate it in 94, it wasn't finished, so we ended up rededicating it in 95, and the mayor came and they had a dedication. I was just trying to make sure, when I had spoken to the city, I was trying to explain, I don't want to like have anything like with the building area there. I'm just trying to see if a section where the park is actually located can still remain there and be, I guess, an official, I guess they're saying it has to be like official land park dedication. I'm not sure the terminology to use, but I just want to make sure I know it's on the agenda, but I just want to try to make sure that it stays on the agenda and it's like a priority for our family.
Inspired.
Okay. Yeah, covered.
Thank you. Thank you for your, and appreciate your bringing it to our attention. those again. Okay, we'll move on to the work plan, which is, I consider this to be kind of our North Star, I guess you could say. So each year we have a council approved work plan. We'll actually be taking this to the city council, I think sometime in April. So it's important that we finish up our work today. As I said, think of this as a North Star, like our GPS. It tells us what the council has asked us to focus on, what success looks like, and where we should be spending our time. So throughout the year, you may ask, you may be hear me ask or others, this is part of our work plan, having discussions. And this is where the city council wants our attention. And it's not because we're trying to be like against the agenda police or anything, but because it helps keeps us focused and makes sure that we're using everyone's time well and that our meetings are very efficient. So just kind of a reminder about the ad hoc committees themselves. These are when we're working on the work plan, pick up the ad hoc that's temporary. Hopefully it will be completed before the next work plan, or plan will close for the year. So hopefully when we start at our next retreat, we talk about accomplishments, the items that we worked on and work plan that have been they have this I guess it's a project. They have a start date, they have an end date. And they're meant to bring ideas back to the full council, which are full commission, which are shared at our Parks and Rec Commission meetings. So you should commit to meeting with your staff liaison for our regularly scheduled PRC meetings, whether it be for the ad hoc or just the liaison. The liaison themselves, they're not, they're not permanent, and they're not meant to go on and become their own committee. In other words, the work plan itself, short term, clear vision, clear mission, and looking at the indefinitely.
And then just procedural, what we did was a little bit different this year, but hopefully it helps expedite. We weren't able to actually get to the work plan and fully complete it. So I appreciate you all doing homework ahead of time. Reflected to you right now is a working document that Eric has on his computer. This was within your packet. If you scroll, you'll keep going. We'll go through accomplishments. So this was everything from last year. Keep going. And what I believe the chair, what I can just showcase is keep going all the way. Those are your new accomplishments that Vice Chair Way went over. And then anything in red are the updates and changes that were provided by either the ad hoc or the group working on it. When we get to it, there was one that we didn't have updates, and that's the recreation wellness. So I spoke to the chair ahead of time. It sounds like we'll work through. Do you want to speak? We'll work through basically the plan as submitted. And if there's topics that you want to or readdress, but this is really just trying not to rework, because typically work plans are fluid and not everything gets completed in 1 year. So it's an iterative process, again, highlighting just anything, and we might need to hit some of the lights. I'm thinking, no. Oh. Yeah, the red might be, red is a little challenging to read, I'm thinking, but. Better?
Let's go. Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll leave it there. Happy to have questions. We can go through it. To me, one other thing that I feel like the quarter, Q2, Q1, city council's work plan works off of quarters on the calendar year. However, your work plan right now is drafted as of fiscal year 27, which means it would start in July. But of being approved at city council in April. But again, we're kind of off cycle. The cadence has been adjusted, so just calling that out.
Okay, so.
Back to what we discussed before, how many years can an ad hoc be like? Like, because it's supposed to be temporary.
It's really a temporary.
So it's temporary, 2 years, 5 years, like how do you decide?
I think we look at it. It's a 1 year, anything, we should be a 1 year.
So if
Right.
it's,
And so that there are some things that, and this is where we kind of go, if you know from some of our previous retreats, we've had items that fall off because they've been completed. With items that have kind of taken on a whole different life, I guess you could say, we actually end up labeling those. And I mean, like playing fields, for instance, I think. What can you lump onto something like playing field? What can you lump under, I guess, like, parks, right? We have, for playing fields, we have the turf installations that will take place for both the athletic fields and also for soccer fields. So with those then fall with a playing field, just so it's out, would that fall into, would that continue to be an ad hoc or would it fall into being a land zone? Because then we would be working, it's already been approved, right, by both the Parks and Rec and by the city council. They're just working with the with Adams Group on kind of what's happening with that, and then at a meeting would be the liaison would then present kind of what the status update is on that, whether or not a particular athletic field has been completed or has run into. But again, that could be considered, or do you consider that keeping that as an
so it could be that the scope changes because there are some priorities of work and stuff has changed.
Right.
So it will retain its ad hoc status, but be somewhat a different scope. Or it could be turned into a liaison.
So I think if we go through these each one by one, we can decide whether or not, do we keep it in its current form and just adjust the dates? I think last year we talked about whether or not something be consistent with the timelines, whether or not it's but what's really, in my what Sarah said, basically, it gets approved by the city council in April. It becomes kind of live, I guess you can see, we actually worked on it before. Let's say April, still working in May, but it runs from July to July of the
June 30th.
June of next year. So we really have- so when we're thinking about it, though, really should have. It should be a completed item by the next time of our next retreat. That we can take a- Anyone else? Okay, so looking at for project number 1, the CIP review. Any changes or recommendations?
That's why I asked my question, because they started a long time ago.
But it's been changed, right?
Oh, what?
But as a reminder, these are projects and goals. So we're talking about ad hocs and liaisons on your next item on the agenda. This is a specific work plan item that you plan to accomplish and will be working on. So, right, so there are more projects than there are ad hocs.
So is this one, can this one be the role of chair and vice chair to work with staff one? rather than having an ad hoc.
Correct. Right now, this is just a liaison.
Right now, yeah. Right. So,
So that you're seeing the only change is, with the dates.
timeline.
Yes,
But the impact and the resources required, so. But it's one that we continue, I think,
and it goes back to your charter.
Is this an ad hoc or liaison?
well,
You'll be discussing that at your next item on the agenda.
All right.
move on to the next item. Park dedication.
And if you scroll down there, sorry with the split screen, if you scroll down there's a lot more, changes there. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This change relates to the public speaker.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Correct, so for the public speaker, we're calling out that this item's on the agenda currently.
So,
One other item that potentially could be, it's right now in a low priority, but I've recently heard that the Measure E site for landfill will also be coming back to the Parks and Rec Commission. And that's something, it's a lot for two different sites all at once, but it is something that may come up during this next fiscal year. But you'll see it is on highlighted within the lower priority section.
any comments?
When I was in last year was last year, I'm wondering whether we still make this as ad hoc or with the two liaison, whether the liaison is sufficient. It's just a question. Sorry.
I think once we get the full scope of the work plan, the idea is that we'll, on your last item on the agenda, you'll figure out which one needs an ad hoc and which ones will need liaisons to help execute on the work plan.
You build a work plan.
Yeah.
Related said, this commission had a recommendation about the Measure East site already. We 2 years ago, 1 year ago, there was a consensus to recommend rededication of the Measure East site. So do we want to go back there or just keep that recommendation?
Well, I think then at city council level, there was more investigation and work that has been done. So then it will, correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
That's why I need to come back to council. It's part of. All the issues. It's named for the defendant, right? So later. It's. County. So in FY 27. That point is. It's not considered. So
Still do, so we have a number of items that are related to our plan, such as restrooms and those types of things with those. Would that be fine?
If you scroll up, this category is park dedication.
Okay. Okay. So. Do we Well, how do you label this where we are including the types of work that's gonna be done in the parks? I mean,
Can you be a little more specific?
well, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, when you look at the CIP and there's a lot of things that are happening with restrooms that installed.
But those are already happening. So this specifically is only park dedication. And if you scroll down to the high priority, I think or what's before you to deliberate on is, do you want this change? And is it a high priority to this group to work with staff to assess the suitability of Ventura Community Center, also known as Palo Alto Community Child Care, for parkland dedication?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're looking for where do the specific CIP projects that were listed earlier in the PowerPoint fit into the work plan, and maybe it could be added under the CIP, some additional details so that those
Sure.
projects are captured in the work plan also.
Okay. Sure, so Eric, if you can scroll back up to.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, right here. So.
High priority.
Does it fall, yeah, so that's, where would we put it?
There's like this specific. Yes.
But I would just say, though, trying to keep with the role of the commission, right, it's staff's to implement those projects. So unless I guess I'm not sure on what would need to be.
Let's keep going and now.
Okay.
Baylands. I mean, I think we did a lot of work on it, so I think they kind of.
I would hope, what I was envisioning, I guess, with this is now there's an ad hoc attached to this. The ad hoc supplied the changes in addition to staff. So if you want to speak to the changes for this coming year, I think that's now's kind of the time, or correct.
Any. For the new commission, so you had reading through this, did it resonate and. Public areas. I mean. I mean, having been involved in last year, I don't see how much of a change.
Basically continuing to work on that.
Any comments, or should we move to the next?
This includes. Does this include any discussion? This stuff.
Well, this should feel good. You completed one, so we can eliminate. It was officially closed and brought back, I believe, in October to your meeting where the commission decided to close the ad hoc so you'll see this struck from your work plan. If everyone agrees, I say we I mean.
I mean, I know we,
agreed in
this is one that,
October,
this is
so-
one that came over from a previous year, and
Yeah.
worked for
Yeah.
2 years, so.
Yes.
Nice to be able to.
So this is one where I didn't receive updates and I would ask for the commission to evaluate. If this one is needed, or if you have the bandwidth to also work on this as a priority for this coming fiscal year.
Recreation. It's a high priority.
Well, it's now really.
Correct. Towards, I believe it's your last project goal is Coverly. That's on the current plan. So
So it's consolidates the wellness. Budget, right?
Well, if you go back, this is like one that's been on at least, well, at least 3 years. And part of that was that was it came from the city council was to evaluate whether or not to select the location and to evaluate whether or not it's something that we want to put forward on. So in a way, it has been completed because the site has been defined or publicly right. And so is there really, we do have a publicly landscape, which, but how does that landscape fall for the support the work that the building needs to?
and maybe you can come back to this, which,
I mean, I think that it's been completed.
okay,
I'm not sure.
so it sounds like we can, I can strike this.
So you don't want to keep it liaison over. Done.
No, I think we have to have a list. The cover, yeah. Cover.
This recreation wellness project that had covered under the covered project. Yeah, yeah, good idea, yes. And you're leading that project. That part of that. Yeah.
And Eric, if it's giving you technical difficulties, I can just make note of it. We can continue on. Yeah. Yes, I got it.
Sarah, do you have that? We're gonna cover it.
Not yet. We're almost there. Almost there. We're right now on playing fields.
That would be a projection, but
We just finished recreation wellness, and we're on number 6 now.
what did we decide on?
We're striking that from the work plan because it's covered under Coverly. The Coverly project.
Thank you.
Potentially, if, playing fields is more broad, I don't know if the commission would like to consider, possibly renaming it. This is, I will also add, this is one of the city council priority and, an outcome of the turf study. I know we've had conversations with Commissioner Smith as well as Commissioner Axelrod based on what we have here.
Yeah, and I guess whether or not the label covers, because pretty much it's all on the Adams group, right? So it's any racket and field sports.
This is different. We split them up. So racket is next.
Oh, yeah.
This is, yeah,
Well, whether, yeah,
on your work plan,
but at one time. we had it combined.
correct, that 2 years ago. It was,
And I think it's split with the really in-depth conversation around turf and our grads and our turf.
Right.
The need to split it was definitely there at the time. I guess it's up for discussion as to how we feel it is then.
This work plan is project specific to the term pilot, the way it's written, which falls under playing fields as a relevant category.
Right.
So it's, I think, a suggestion to be more specific on the title of the ad. Anyway, this will be an ad hoc because it's a project.
Constraints go to just the study, or do we want a more general implementation of turf grass enhancements? Then it would be like with the state.
I think going back to the goal of the commission, it's because staff will implement, I think, and I'll also defer, I know they're gonna be Ben working,
Yeah, I think
you know, on,
the plan. The two kind of bullet points of priority, aligning specifically with the council recommendation on what to pursue. So that's why it's very specific. There will be a potential phase two. The pilot in future years, depending on year one results.
So do we have a timeline? I mean, what's the pilot though?
This is the 1 year timeline for phase one, which would include maintenance optimization.
Yeah.
We're piloting enhanced maintenance on existing fields, but also exploring opportunities. Transition from synthetic turf and recovery by doing some feasibility studies and conceptual designs for specific sites. You're seeing council have options and cost estimates to inform the exits projects, which currently itself is scheduled for FY20. So that is why we want to get ahead of that in terms of paying for that and also potential option or PRC also.
For the recommendations, leave it at plain fields, right? Like covers.
We want to make it concrete and actionable, and then if this makes sense, but this is really about getting an action plan to go after the turf thing. So grass turf action is the outcome.
The outcome of the project will be data to inform future decisions on turf management, which includes capital projects such as upcoming synthetic turf replacement, or more broadly, management practices related to just how we maintain all fields. So it is a little, it is sort of twofold. One is focused on future capital projects, and one is focused on future maintenance and operations best practices. It is.
It's really a playing fields plan is the.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah, all the. I support them.
so it can be left as playing fields. It's just an option. Want to, it's really up to the ad hoc to decide it. Retitle it to something more specific to.
I have two questions. What is the PRC specific rules? Just to review the maintenance plan that was presented and make sure it's in accordance with the recommendation?
Yeah, and to be kept abreast of the progress and being made. Just two points throughout the year. And to kind of have an impact and influencing how we're going. It's make sure it's in line with. Possible.
So it's not necessarily any policy decisions, it's really more liaising.
Right, and so like a pilot study together and inform future decisions. So it won't, it can influence
policy that's not focused on this. This.
Did the staff have a recommendation on what a better title would be for after?
I would call it. Church step.
But does that,
Natural gas pilot.
oh, because you're already making a decision. Okay.
I wouldn't call it term pilot. It's a bit more broad than the.
But if you say, either
Surface pilot.
Yeah, surface, yeah, I would.
or playing field.
I think it is explicitly a natural grass. And as we've asked for, we went forward with synthetic turf replacement at Alpino Park because it's happening now. We've asked for pilot of natural grass. Right?
Yes,
Correct. So that makes more sense.
Right.
Yes.
A lot of the public comments that we received about this plastic surfacing was not really limited to playing fields. It was all kinds of other plastic
Be like, oh,
materials on in city parks, including the foam and there were comments on other surfaces as well. So I don't know if we want to consider that. Yeah. But there was definitely a lot of letters and a lot of information provided about the suitability of using plastic for little kids play.
oh, just make it plain field surfaces that cover.
this is I will just say though, this is a directive from city council, so I think we should follow the direction that city council is asking for. And there may be, I have spoken to, we are adding for any community engagement and park, renovations, we will be adding a surfacing slide at community meetings. But I'm not sure it fits into this project or goal. Because that wasn't stated during the, motion.
So let's leave it as natural. Natural grass. That's natural grass.
Sure. Sure.
All right. That one almost, so Adam, or this one that we're continuing to work on, I think that will be wrapped up before the effective date of the new work.
Yeah, I think both will have been recommended, through this committee. I think that's being to city council. But I think we will have done our part of policy recommendations, both the tennis courts and.
And I want to be cognizant, I know Adam has to leave here, so just wrapping up for ad hoc, for the racket court, and then I think there's middle school athletics on here. Is so keeping this on?
No, I think this would be done more than this.
Okay, so removing from the
That's gonna come to council next month,
Commission,
commission.
April, right?
April for anticipating.
I'm confused. Yeah,
Goal number 7,
number 7, okay.
yes,
That's.
that's the pickleball tennis,
That's gonna come in April,
yes.
not March.
Correct, we have had some scheduling shifting around, yes.
And keep in mind that the work plan gets approved. So So I guess the point is, would this be one that's on the goes from fiscal year 26 to 2025? But you're saying that you think it'll be, it's complete,
We will have done our work
if there's no further action.
unless there's additional.
Well, because pickleball also falls on it. That doesn't necessarily mean,
We'll be asking for a recommendation.
right, which then goes to the city council. Which could be May, June. So based on their recommendation, oh, their comments, it could come back. We move the PRC. So I'm of the mindset that this still should say. It's not completed until the city council is signed off on it. Right. No, both of those have to go to city council. Are we, there's a court policy.
So that's done.
That's done.
The remaining portion of this is just the conversation around the court usage, pickleball tennis.
Yes, I think. I'm of the mindset that it should stay out. Don't think it's.
What here are you working on in fiscal year 27?
Football.
So maybe we need to change it because you're no longer working on the racket court
Right.
policy update. So maybe there needs to be
Court
some
usage.
revision.
Maybe court usage.
I think the left side, reading it, that part is the part that probably.
Okay,
Or. Well, it's not tied up yet, so.
Well, maybe we change it to court policy.
We expect this to be decided before by city council sometime
We
in
don't
the
know,
near future.
right?
And we should still follow it, but I don't know how much work needs to be done, right? Because we don't know if it's all gonna be, okay, done, or there'll be more, that's
Right.
kind of what we're
Right.
from. Very well. Can we during the year change from a liaison to an ad hoc if something becomes more work than
We've done
anticipated?
that.
if we do, we have to just agendize it and vote.
Well, we have to that. If it goes to the council, the council comes back to the PRC for additional comment that to get rejected.
You mean if the directive comes down? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you?
I know, middle school athletics, Adam was supposed to leave 5 minutes ago. I will
Sorry.
say it because
Okay.
he will not.
I'll try faster. No,
Yeah.
I'll try to say.
Okay, so we'll leave that.
Can I just add that I think that we should remove this one because this work will be complete and just because it's a liaison role doesn't mean that there can't be specific project or like dog parks is a good example. Just because it's a liaison doesn't mean that a dog park wouldn't get worked on. But I don't think we have a firm idea of what the specific project is. But the work will be completed like middle school athletics by the time this work is completed.
Who else is working with you on this? Is it an ad hoc or a,
Ad hoc.
This is correct.
Which area?
and who are that ad hoc?
That's
Single chair and vice chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vice Chair, do you have maybe comments on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. If you feel comfortable taking it on, feel comfortable with that, removing it.
Yeah, I mean, the only part, the point you brought up as to what feedback do we get from council on any recommendations is a good one. I mean, it could be sent back to us. So I don't know what best practices in that regard.
And maybe it's like the dog skateboard.
If it's sent back, we can always add it.
Yeah.
Or we can just, make it clear.
Right. Okay. All right.
And I mean, a liaison role, I think here is always gonna be.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
I do want
review
to,
anything,
yeah,
check.
yeah, I do want to comment how much extensive look at this.
Like,
Really? Yeah, very.
Not done yet.
Yeah,
You want to jump down to middle school, so how?
Like,
yeah.
Which is, removed.
Because this should be, again, brought back in April for final representation.
If we don't mind, can we go back on the pickleball tennis thing? Our group is going to have what liaison, what role do we have?
Just interacting with that.
And I think it'd be like, how's the policy changing working? Are we hearing other problems? That kind of communication back and forth, just to make sure things are still working smoothly. It's constant adaptation out there, so I think a liaison roles.
Liaison, and we're thinking of project folks and.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, are there any new items that commissioners would like to consider add to?
we're not discussing, really, the next one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Nothing but. The changing.
Is that how I suggested the wellness center at the.
Theater. It's not forward to do something that. And government.
The theater. Yeah.
Okay, any other things to add to that?
Sorry, just so, when this comes back on wellness center, the recreation wellness center plan.
No, I want to add it under the high priority.
Oh,
Not on the.
like work with, the recreation wellness center.
What with the. Friends of wellness and representer. Friends of,
Fall off the wellness.
yeah,
Oh,
with the friends group. Also, Commissioner Smith mentioned, also want to add the theater. Project.
Oh, theater.
but it's not working with it's not. The theater group is working with the wellness center.
No, it's a different,
No, I would just say,
yeah.
why would the PRC work with the theater?
No, I didn't, I just understood that their city and building. To do the theater.
Yeah, so there's the image of that still works.
Actually, no, but why would that be part of the PRC?
I think it's creation.
Theater?
Maybe.
No,
So,
It's under arts and science.
oh, okay, yeah.
it's not on the.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
So,
I only have a question about, input on space use and site activation. site activation is good, but how do we provide input on spaces at this time? I mean, maybe that's part of this master plan, supporting the master plan. That the idea, or we getting, because, you know, in public meetings, people said, oh, I want a bridge, I want this, I want that. So that's not what we're going to be looking at, right?
I could have a question about the theater. I think the theater rental is well recreation.
Theater rental, I just know that our, other side of the house, Arts and Sciences, is the one who works directly with, Theater Works.
But I'm talking about the facility, like the facility.
Oh, that rents it out? I'm not aware of that, but I can follow up.
I mean, I rented the theater a few times when art school. Yeah. So I think it's under renovation.
Yeah. The theater at Cumberland,
Oh, okay.
the current theater at Cumberland is rented out through your department.
Perfect.
Yeah.
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 Well, I
Well,
know,
right.
CSD, it's still under CSD, it's just, yeah.
Different division.
Correct.
What is CSD? Community
Oh,
service.
community
Okay.
service.
All right,
I just heard, like, maybe we can make that bullet point more broad, it's like work with community stakeholders, for example, Friends of Paul Wellness Center, in case there are others that come up.
Yeah.
Because all uses haven't been identified.
Correct, right. Yeah, there was talk at council meeting, Avenidas, and perhaps more.
Right. That good.
That's the last one.
We put this now.
Maybe it's a. This, oh yeah, just as a proposal, all the government efficiency, there's a bunch of stuff we discussed, this bill, I anticipate that's. Get a project to someone not like asset management, public reviewing. Meeting timing, all that, is that worthy of a project, or we just cover that stuff?
If you were doing, book, like, what would you include? Most, like, what would be based on pattern we had? What is your, like, high priorities? How do you evaluate the accomplishment? You have a little more.
So
It's redundant or new.
it's not covered in any of these, but there will be things that we discussed in the last two meetings that. Yeah. Improvement in the public visibility and asset management issues. Right, and improvement in timings of how we do our meetings and participation, so just efficiency add-ons there. I just wanted to raise it to you guys, is it something that we might want to discuss the project or just?
How would you, you mean, of course, adding that as well.
Yeah. Hey, we should get better and more efficient at businesses. Yeah,
That's part of the city council.
Or with volunteers, and somebody wants to do something, which is helpful, I'm like, yeah, go for it, you know. So if you want to do that, I'd be supportive.
But I'm not sure how it falls into. It might be, I mean, I'm not sure how would you. Well, that, I mean, it's not part of our work, but it's part of the process of taking our meeting efficiently. To be able to.
Well, and perhaps, I don't know if you're speaking to like the norms, that was discussed earlier. Some of the like efficiency things, I think staff should be able to handle, and and like asset management, I know it's something that we're working on specifically, at least in parks and things, I guess. If it's specific to like the norms and you want to do a kind of deep dive on that, that could, you know, if there's enough there.
There's a lot better. I was thinking under government efficiency. Some of you may or may not remember this, but in 2013, I headed a group to reduce the council from 9 to 7. We sold that 2 ways. One, would you rather have 9 bosses or 7 bosses? And number 2, have shorter meetings. We passed that, I think 58%, something like that. The meetings have gotten longer. So under government efficiency, I feel personally bad that they didn't go there. I think our meetings in the development could be more efficient. And my understanding that you guys have a time limit.
We're each given 5 minutes to speak on an item. And that includes asking questions. If you were presenting and I wanted to ask you a question. So I might ask my question, that takes part of the 5 minutes, you answer. I have no control over the length of your answer. And so the entirety of what we say and ask and listen to from others is meant to take no more than 5 minutes. Now, sometimes we say, you know, we need a second round on this because, and so but it's a way to try to make sure that nobody of the 7 in that conversation is taking more than 5 minutes.
And what's the 3 minutes?
That's for public comment, typically. Public comments, 3 minutes.
Actually, like that, how would we? I mean, is that something we would incorporate into our plan? As, I guess we would be working with staff and that, so that would be a liaison.
And maybe that does fall under norms,
Yeah, good.
you know.
No,
I mean, I like the point of the following from the city council and some of the commission have limits on how much each, you know, when we go after we finish public comments on an agenda item, then we go around to the commissioners for input. That should be time and to give other commissioners enough time to also put forth their.
again, I'm gonna be extremely blunt. We give public 3 minutes.
Right.
And if you really think about it, you can say a lot in 3 minutes. I would like us to work on that we go around the room, 3 minutes, go around the room, back to me, 3 minutes, and then go.
We can,
Just, I think for efficiency.
I don't know if we need to document that. I think that could be something that's part of the chair's responsibility, say that every commissioner is allotted 3 minutes or 5 minutes for.
And the advantage of that is that you gain knowledge as you go around.
Because, I mean, theoretically, you think about it, the commissioner speaks for 10 minutes. You might have a point that you want to bring across, but that commissioner actually already covered that item, which means you end up having to then change words. But I think it's something that the chair would manage.
If I'm the only one, should do it.
No,
I don't think our meetings ever went as long as city council meetings.
don't lie.
Yeah, so,
Thanks for the cheers, man.
and also, I don't think we have a lot of time when somebody takes more than 3 minutes on the dais. If we're gonna do like a change first, I think you're right, that it's potentially like the chair can just say, please try to limit your comment to 3 minutes, and then we'll see if we need more.
Right.
But I don't think this should be a written rule, because if we're not city council, they got so much on their agenda.
Yeah.
We can manage the agenda, so it's.
And that's really something that the chair works, and the vice chair work with staff on, and trying to make sure that we have agenda items that. I mean, we try and figure out how much time is this particular item going to take. If we know it's going to take, say, some things that are very attention from their group, but something. Yeah, we try and spread this out so that you don't have maybe 2 or 3 contentious items that could take an hour and a half and have 20 or more public speakers, so that's something that we sort of work on together. But I don't know if it needs to be,
No,
you know, formalized, but
whatever
it's-
group thinks to put it on the mission.
Chair, I have a suggestion that is a bit of a hybrid, which is, many of us, myself included, I'm an extrovert, I, enjoy talking. And extroverts often have the mic. And so what we get, Clerk will put up the red light, will start us at 5 minutes and it'll count down. And then it counts back up once you're over your 5 minutes. And that clock faces the dais. So we are all aware, ourselves included and our colleagues, of how much time we are taking. And I think if you were to make the suggestion of the certain, whether it's 3 minutes or 5 or what have you, and that clock is activated, then it helps hold us all accountable. And you'll hear colleagues say, I realize I'm over time. I'm sorry, Mayor. Are we doing a second round or should I finish? And I think that's an intermediate thing to
Yeah.
hold each other and ourselves accountable.
Yeah, I like that actually,
Yeah.
but what it does too, you can always circle back, like you said, for the second round and the third round. I think with that, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Just to close the loop, I think the comments about government efficiency and meeting efficiency are good and they should be sort of embedded in all of our projects. One thing that we did when we switched from verbatim minutes is we went to summary minutes, where a lot of other commissions went to action minutes, because we do have the video recording available for someone who wants to view the full transcript. So that could be another improvement, but I do think that a lot of the efficiency measures should go through the chair, and if it warrants a specific project, then that can be explored.
Well, I wanted to suggest another, look at nature connectivity. It's based on our along the parks, trails, natural open space and recreation master plan. The map you see on the screen is part of the, it's actually like a first section in the executive summary, which looks at planning processes, but then it looks at what are the opportunities that this master plan in general is looking at. And in the opportunities are the Cavalry Community Center, which I'm glad we got to that, which inspired Vale and aesthetic, but then because like, what are the main, there are some maps, and one of them says expand the system. That's not this one, but that expand the system really relates to the part education. How are we going to have more available for that? The second one is connect the system, which is how do we connect our parks in a safe way so people have access and can move around. And the third one is connect natural systems. And that's this one. And there are like both parks, both natural parks and city parks in this, and their connectivity, I would say, corridors here. And when the next, and I don't have it from there, but the next page looks at principles, goals, and policies. And we have the principles of what should our parks do. And so it's playful, healthy, sustainable, inclusive, accessible, flexible, balanced, in nature. And nature essentially looks at those opportunities to create natural habitat corridors and to create opportunities to learn and interact with nature. And to me, this always meant all of it. It's not only the natural parks, but all our parks should be accessible. All of them should encourage people to learn, play, and enjoy nature. And that could be butterflies, it could be birds, it could be just plants, it could be something that is a little more than just kind of clean environment. So my suggestion is to look at how can we help with policy 4C, which is connect natural areas, open space breaks and vegetated areas in parks and on public land to create wildlife pollinator and habitat corridors by planting native oaks and other species, etc. And so what I was thinking is that in ad hoc code, look at these connectivity systems and look at all the different planning documents the city already has is the first thing, which is not only our master plan, but also the urban forest master plan, the city comprehensive plan, and other plans that have some of these elements in them, and then look for where are the opportunities to actually implement something. And so I think it's part of what we are expected to do, but we haven't done it specifically. There are a lot of projects that the staff is implementing that include elements of nature, and that's great, but they don't actually have a guideline. So they do it by the way that they think would be good, and usually it is, but I would say always, but that doesn't mean that a document actually creates some general guidelines or policies that might be helpful. So what I thought this other would be do is look at the policy and synthesis, look at best practices that we have here, and look at some of the other cities that are focusing on this. There's some good examples in San Francisco and Mountain View, a little bit in Cupertino. And then as an provide some recommendations to the PRC and some implementation-oriented policy guidance. So I was thinking of looking a lot at what other cities have done, but also what our city has done. And so to try and put that together, it's not to prepare site-specific designs. It's not to look at technical or consultant level studies. It's just to see what we have already. And the anticipated outcome, I try to tailor this to our pattern in those projects we looked at, would be to provide guidance that strengthens biodiversity and pollinator productivity, and improve policy consistent according city plans, although that might be a very high bar, so I put that maybe as little less of a priority. And so what this will deliver is city policy analysis and synthesis for all the different plans that have something to do with this, including both sustainability and nature-related topics. Look at policy gaps and opportunity, best practices summary, and potentially policy recommendations. And so that's what I'm hoping to do, and I hope I get all of this, I can read it, but hopefully some of you have an interest in that and will join me in this adventure. It's not a small task. I think it's doable, and I think it would be helpful to start.
So what would be the, let's say, what would be the vote? Although I said before.
I think, you know, there's programs that we could use, like locally native and pollinator supporting standards. Like if you're gonna plant something, then they've done it in some cities, like you have to plant at least 50% of the plants would be locally native plants. I'm not saying that's what the recommendation will be. I'm just saying this is something that can be quite concrete, because then stuff goes to decide, okay, we have an opportunity here. What are we gonna do with it? To create that habitat connectivity, to look at how can we do that. There are tools to do this. Not easy, but can be delivered, and reduce ecological barriers is here. And I'm not sure yet how to do that, but I know there are some examples in other cases. So evaluate what other cities are doing and come up with something that is acceptable to stuff that I can work with. That's kind of fun.
Just something on that.
So I did, I'll speak, and I don't think Ben's seen this. I do think, you know, this is a lot of work. And I think it would be appreciated if the group would like to work on it. I think it's something to have a framework. If we end up with a framework that is a reference, I don't know what that is, if it's something that folds into it, like as a result of all the plans, and then how it kind of is bundled, if it ends up being like, I guess what I'm unclear of is, does it end up forming into a policy? Does it end up, that's what's a little fuzzy to me, but I would appreciate the work and the expertise.
But it sounds like what this does is sort of establish the groundwork to see whether or not. But a lot of it would be the ad hoc working with staff and then you'll know kind of what you would expect when product of this and again, and then it might work something forward as you have more and more.
Do we know who else has parkland in our city?
The school district.
And how about the rivers?
That's a very complicated picture with the creeks. Some of them are private. Some of them are the border district. Some sections, maybe other agencies, but a lot of the creeks are actually private land. And yeah, in the hills mostly. But here in town, it's mostly the border district.
Somebody was telling me something about Oregon Expressway. There's highways that, you know, I don't.
Sometimes some of it could be Stanford. That is kind of adjacent. I'm not sure about Caltrans or anything like that, but you know, when you build a bridge, then Caltrans or the BTA or one of the transportation agencies has to be involved, so it gets complicated.
Just a question.
So I guess. I mean, it sounds like it could be an actual fit in the work. And it doesn't appear that it'd be an additional, it could be something that could help staff in formulating a plan that, and it does support the master commitment. So to me, it's not like you know, if they would add to the work plan and then decide. You've already named the ad hoc. So, we decide whether or not ad hoc or no.
Should we go around the room?
I may just try to answer that first. I don't know about the liaison. I mean, because there is no something to liaise to.
Right, that's something there.
So I think it's something that could morph over time too. This is kind of an initial proposal to start looking at. How can nature essentially be integrated into our connectivity system with the policy? I'm not exactly sure what the end will be. We have, but I would like to start working on that. And I think it will take some staff time, but I can start doing some work with whoever join me, if anyone, to start moving this ahead.
Yeah, I'm interested. I qualify as a neighborhood edgelist, but I want to look into bigger scope for the region to grow. And also, I guess at the beginning, it will be a low staff time, maybe when it's more comprehensive.
To
moderate staff. Right?
I support that adding this part of the work plan, unless others have objections, but.
What is the others?
I just have a comment on the nature and connectivity. To me, it sounds like we want to connect all the open spaces. And the connection. So
it's based on connect the system, right?
In the master.
In the master plan. That's why it's
pages.
No,
it doesn't matter.
Connect natural systems. If you think we should change it, connect natural systems, I'm fine with that. That's here.
okay, but it just sounds very confusing to me. I think it's pretty confusing.
to. I think the idea is great and I like the purpose of it. We ran into this issue when we were doing the master plan ad hoc where it involves so many other departments in the city. And we, as a commission or even as community services, can't direct other departments what to do and to comply with our plan. And so I don't want to start something that eventually we can't really finish and deliver on. So I think maybe the scope of it should be to look at the Mountain View one as an example, or the Cupertino, and maybe develop a proposed scope for a council to consider. But council is really the one that can really direct that plan or hire a consultant to do it, to complete that work. I don't really think it should be the commission. It should be someone that has that subject matter knowledge and expertise on how to create that policy and to collaborate with the other departments. So that would be my suggestion.
I don't anticipate providing direction to any other department or even to Parks and Rec. For the Parks Recreation. I just think that providing kind of general guidelines for our own parks, not talking about what public works might do in our parks. They do a lot, or utilities, anybody else. It's not to direct their work, and that's why we got in trouble with the CAP review. And saying that it's confusing, I get it, but it's written here as an opportunity to do something. It's in our plan. So, you know, it's connecting natural system, and I can read that and go through all the different places that it appears here and in the comprehensive plan. So that's sort of trying to bring one of these. We're already looking at expanding the system. We have other groups, not necessarily parks, looking at connecting the system, because that's partially the forestry and partially it's Safeway, it routes to school and others. So it's less of our responsibility, our purview, even though it's in our plan. But connecting natural system, I think we can do. I do think that with some work, we can do that and come up with some guidelines. And then if the city council wants to expand it and hire the consultant to do more work, then fine. But, you know, I would like to start this.
Chair, we're over time. We're 24 minutes. I have overtime. What we can do as an option, this will come back to, so everything that has been done today will come back at the end of the month. So in 2 weeks, we can put this draft basically into, and then if there's more deliberation needed, we can do that. And I don't know if there's additional work plan items that we wanted to.
Yeah, but the other side of that is the staff to come with this is when we put this in with, there's a time in there's time that an ad hoc where the members of the ad hoc have to devote time to this. And which means that if you're members of other ad hocs, it's fully, the staff is also involved. Staff is also involved in those particular ad hoc. So we need more time to kind of review it. I want staff to kind of give us their input as to whether or not this is something that they feel is going to be worth
Sarah,
time and effort.
how best could we just find out, like phone call or whatever, to Mountain View, San Francisco? Do you all share that kind of thing?
We are able to have contacts. Yeah, I know a lot of people at Mountain View.
That might be a start to just to see what they've done. My gut tells me San Francisco will be different than Mountain View.
Well, that
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Not inventing the wheel.
Want to pull up the last item, that ad hoc, and liaison spreadsheet. Did you want to get
Yeah, that's,
to the last item or is there more?
I think
discussion?
that we can go through this further.
Okay,
Okay, so. PCT2.
so middle school athletics, based on the discussion earlier, would be removed, but.
You renamed playing field.
Yes. Playing fields turned to natural grass pilot or
Grass. Then I might.
Bracket coach policy. You take that on.
that was removed. But I think rather than removing that item, if you can maybe draft nature connectivity. Oh, because you're removing middle school athletics as well as graphic work policy. And nature connectivity. And I believe, park dedication is another one that needs an ad hoc.
We'll take it.
Remove it from layers and everything, that seems to be.
That's
Same. Members for the dedication.
I think there was only Chair Freeman, so I think at this time we're looking for ad hocs. The hope is 2 or 3 at
no more than
most.
3.
No more than 3
Hopefully
liaisons.
no less than 2.
Yes,
No less than.
and then Commissioner Kleinhaus.
So I would like to do the nature connectivity. I don't necessarily need to feel coverly, I don't mind if, but if anybody else wants it.
Yes, Crispin still by letting. Oh, good. Yeah.
Yes, for Coverly, yes.
No, I'm on, I'm sorry, I can't remember the one. I think you're the chairman of all our parks and everything around. I have a bum knee, so I'm not very good at climbing up and seeing things, so I would be happy with another one, but I got to think about that.
You're talking about the liaison.
No, let's finish up ad hoc. So Bayland,
Maybe I'm on the wrong thing.
You are on natural grass turf on the ad hocs.
And again, I'm not trying to get off of anything, but I, as a chairman of that group, will tell you, I have not a lot of knowledge in that area. So I truly don't.
well, we all don't know a lot of knowledge in a lot of areas, but that's why we're working with staff to get educated.
That would I. To find out.
Do you want to move to Coverly project? Is that what you're saying? From the natural turf pilot?
We need somebody.
It's just members.
I don't.
Yeah, I think we have to. But we're just trying to understand.
Okay, so next, okay. Baylands comprehensive, is that complete line lesson?
Need to continue working. on it.
Coverly project, I've dealt up a wall and pick myself back and see. Yes, and jump in.
I'm looking at it, nature, that's see if this is my bandwidth. That's what I was asking. People stress one too, because.
So it's not good for
Yeah,
any
because you
run
have a
coverage.
very in-depth, local community.
Sure.
Yeah.
Watching on the board of friends.
Yeah, yeah, so we'll make a lot of difference. So we changed to commissions this.
Yeah.
Chair.
I was on park dedication before, so I'm happy to be on park.
There'll be another again.
Yeah, I can also be on the new nature activity. Yeah, so nervous, I didn't need to vote.
Your choice.
Yeah, it's your choice to be. No pressure, even if we're pressure.
I'll join the court litigation as well. If the Measure East site is coming, so. And if it's coming back to us, I would like to be on. I was on that before.
You remove me.
Second,
Yeah, you remove me. And I have a lot. For like,
will be on. Which other? Have done for this.
I retake the offer at your rest. That would take four.
Yes, I got. Okay. Okay, we have quadrants, Commissioner Brown. Go down, there.
Yes.
So open space is where my need comes in, so we should continue.
It's on into level more than one, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, you
Yes.
have to.
One, max two.
So, sir, we talked about the parks, all over the invites in the district, so.
Do we combine that with use liaison or what happened to?
Yeah, so Ben and I spoke with Chair Freeman a little bit about these, and if the group is open to it, we can combine and make larger buckets. For example, parks, anything that's in parks falls under parks. So for example, skate park would be park, dog park, park. So just have larger, so there's not so many.
And you have the same list.
Right,
I want to be taken from the state.
so that could be helpful for consolidating.
Yeah.
If we're looking to kind of reduce the number, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, agreed.
Can you consider the like special use part of the park? Like special facilities.
Visions. Units.
Because these are work groups,
Right.
right? They're under, and then there could be a recreation one, which then aquatics falls under. And
All the center.
yeah,
Because open space, for example, is all encompassing of everything in open space, so it's kind of. Already consolidated. So this.
So the thing is, the computer project, should we just delete that?
Well,
Okay,
it's
well-
still, yeah, I'm not sure if that's necessary,
Yeah, I do.
so.
You,
It may be falls.
yeah. the
It's
same.
all, it's like, I think we moved, I thought we had. Didn't we have? So we have covered the project.
Yeah, so we don't need to have separate liaison.
I don't think we have it right. We didn't have it. We don't have it.
What were the thoughts? Was there consensus to say just parks and then remove dog park, skate park and have it all under parks?
It would be parks, recreation, open space, and then community partners.
And like golf, or
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they have the same list,
right,
right,
good
yeah.
idea.
So as you're presenting to the part, to the PRC meeting. Presenting.
That aligns with our divisions.
and like community gardens is in parks, so that could also roll up. Too.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we can take.
What about golf would still be a separate?
That's it, right, that's a separate work group.
Like funds in the park.
Yes, yes,
It looks like.
green fields, I don't know if we want to spell it out, I would just. Parks, and so we know,
Do we still need,
Park facilities. They see it like, these are like things that are devoted towards.
I think you need to spell out what's in the. Okay. Yeah. Right, yeah,
So
I think it needs to be clear.
We gotta have more than one person.
Not bad idea.
I think that's about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't mind being in that.
and then are we thinking about recreation, which would encompass aquatics? So removing aquatics and
What's in the recreation?
it's kind of hard.
Yeah, it's hard to define them.
Well,
because it's more
with golf,
it's more program based.
with golf fall under that.
No, because it's program based. In recreation programs, perhaps. We need her.
Yeah, creation for.
So that's, I mean, that's good, and then you can talk about pickleball, for example, or any of the maintenance.
I think Chair Freeman, you mentioned like. Is there a need for PAUSD?
Is there? I mean, there should be,
Yes, so
but we've not met. I've never.
yeah, I wonder if we should combine use some PAUSD. I actually have been attending PAUSD meeting last week. And saying similar thing last year. So I'll be happy to focus on use / PAUSD and then feel sustainability of forestry already reflected in the earlier projects such as measurement activity. And so I wouldn't mind taking myself off or debating the system. See.
the idea behind it was like that somebody would go to all the SCAT meetings and all of that, but nobody ever did that.
Well, we never did.
So I'm not sure.
Safe routes are really to school.
Like,
The bike,
Right.
yeah.
And we did reach out to safe routes at different, when we were looking at connectivity and trail use and all of that, they were. We reached out to them.
So maybe safe routes, if we consolidate PAUSD, youth and safe routes. Is that one?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
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 I would think, not a lot of knowledge, that youth is so important. I would
Absolutely.
like to see youth be separate.
Me too.
I just think, because we gotta get these kids away from their devices.
Yeah, yeah, so I had thought of also use as a. Ad hoc, but I'm not so sure how to define it.
So Ron, would you have any interest in that?
well, on the safer, so I've reached out to Rose, I think that's at least the way she sees it's a little different, it's about. Paths and accessibility and not specifically about. Schools per se.
I see.
I don't know if it's urgent, I'm okay to be. That's it, but
I was just gonna say, safe routes also, Rose is also connected. Relates to alternative like transportation, connectivity. Free parks and so it's, to me, safe routes is. It's more about connectivity. Right?
yeah, alternative
The
transportation.
thing is that, we may have not bumped into this now, like that's the place for it, but I've seen other cities where schools suddenly blocked access to their grounds. And so people who had access to the grounds of the schools as parkland in their neighborhood suddenly did not have that
Well,
resource. So I'm not sure that it's together, and I don't mind.
well, that actually falls under. All of the, like, school district discussion too, because that can, like, some of the fields.
Right.
They have responsibility for some of the tennis
Right.
fields and soccer fields, so.
So that connected with safe routes, or that should be two
But
different.
But it's a discussion that could happen during the PAUSD meeting, so safe routes should fall under that one.
I think those should be just saying again, the safe routes is huge.
You mean as a separate item?
I personally like school district.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah, we are.
So I can, did we take, why did we change, what did you take out of the plans? The recreation program. The department, right? Anything
Yeah.
else?
Yeah.
Nothing else falls into that?
Well, we could.
There was nothing,
We could walk there, but it was not.
Okay.
yeah, because it's a different, yeah.
And
I'll that's very interested in learning and unnecessarily that much in the documents. Part, I'll use, on the part, which is the mission.
we agreed to take away the sustainability.
Anything else?
To your point, you thought maybe it could be covered with the nature
Yeah,
connectivity.
if we added the animal to nature connectivity, I don't think this is very similar. Right? Sustainability.
It is, I would say that again, I think the intent was to connect with the SCAP, and the SCAP does have a natural sustainability, but it also has a lot of other stuff. But all the other stuff is really not our purview anyway, so it could be together.
Yeah, so if we're adding the nature activity with the table. It's also some. Yeah, for use, I do agree, we cannot really emphasize the law of taking them to nature and use mental health in our city as we challenge. Since to solve.
Okay.
Support.
Okay, so why don't we,
I can taking myself up with you, so when I got it,
Sir,
unless.
okay, so we'll wrap this up, and then if you think that there's others that you need to, that you'd like to be added to, or, staff, can do another fresh pass at this, and then let's go there. With that being said, unless there's nothing else,
Thank you.
thank you. So,
Yeah.
so you know, our